us about how in 2013, he did not know anything about Christ, and he used to be a thief. And he went into a house of a particular family. He looked around in the house. Surprisingly, he didn't think of taking anything else but a small radio. Now, before he sold the radio, he said, okay, let me just listen and make sure it's working, and then I can sell it. When he switched on the radio, he instantly got to TWR Malawi, and he says he was drawn to that radio content. At the end of the program, the pastor gave a call for those who wanted to give their lives to Christ, and he said that at that moment, he knelt down and he said, I want to give my life to Christ. And he went back to his friends who were doing the stealing together with him, and he told them that I've changed. And his friends didn't believe him. They said it's a phase. But he went back to that house where he stole the radio to give it back. But unfortunately, he found that the people had moved out. And so now he has been listening since 10 years ago. And he personally came to the office and he said, I just want to say thank you so much for the work that TWR Malawi is doing.
May God be praised. To learn more about TWR's work in Malawi, go to twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
You and I are caught between two desires. Chris Fabry here, inviting you to join me for the next Chris Fabry Live. We have wants in our lives. We want to be happy and healthy and secure and comfortable and a lot of other things. But God is not as committed to our wants as He is our needs. If you're struggling with the chasm between your want and your need, join us at the Radio Backyard Fence.
Have a little chat with Chris Fabry Live, Monday through Friday afternoons at 3.
Moody Radio Cleveland, broadcasting since 1958. WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
I just wanted to say thank you for being here.
President Biden is set to visit the region impacted by Hurricane Helene this week. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. In a statement Sunday, the White House said Mr. Biden intends to travel to the impacted areas this week and will do so when it will not disrupt emergency operations. Around 90 people are dead as a result of Helene and the remnants of the storm. Southwest Airlines will soon be ending one of its flight destinations out of Cleveland. This flight route from Cleveland Hopkins to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport will end next April. And Amtrak is expanding one of its routes, which will now connect Cleveland to Florida. The route, called the Floridian, will run from Chicago to Miami and make stops in cities such as Cleveland and Pittsburgh along the way. The route will begin operating on November 10th. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Pursue your passion for shepherding, teaching, and ministry leadership with a Master of Divinity from Moody Theological Seminary. New for fall of 2025. Earn the same world-class degree in a shorter amount of time. We've reduced credit hours to earn a degree while maintaining the quality and course content essential for effective ministry. Need flexibility? Take classes online or on our Chicago or Michigan campuses. Even interchange between all options on a class-by-class basis. Get started at moody.edu/MDiv.
In sports, the Browns fell to the Raiders 20-16, and the Steelers are no longer undefeated, falling to the Colts 27-24. The regular season finale between the Guardians and Astros got canceled due to rain, so the team will start its postseason run from home on Saturday. And the Pirates fell to the Yankees 6-4 in their regular season finale. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy skies with a chance of showers this afternoon. High temperatures should be in the mid-70s. And at last check, we had cloudy skies in Cleveland where it's 66 degrees. Akron and Canton reporting a drizzle and 63 degrees. And in Worcester, it's cloudy and 66.
It's time for your moron moment.
Podcasts have fundamentally changed the way people consume audio, and for that reason, we celebrate on September 30th. Here's to International Podcast Day. With roots going back to the 1980s, what we recognize as podcasts today actually took off in the early 2000s. Like a broadcast, but they are POD, playable on demand. And if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, may I suggest the series by our own Brian Dolan, The Grandfather Effect. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3. At 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey guys, she's back. Oh, Lauren's back.
Hello.
We missed you.
Here I am.
We were lost without you in many ways.
I don't think so. I think you did okay.
I was a little disoriented without you. And Daria, she had to do a lot of wrangling.
I was working overtime over here.
Wrangling.
Right? You did a lot
Wrangling
of
of
wrangling.
you?
I did, yes, of course. Who else?
I thought our guests.
No, Brian. The guests are well behaved.
Yeah, that's true.
And then she sat next to me for a very short time at our remote broadcast last week.
Alan took pity on me and moved me to the other side of the table.
Yes, Alan, he knows.
I literally was going poke, poke,
He made
poke.
some excuse about the microphone not working. He was like, "We need you over there, Daria."
Were you hitting her?
Yes.
There was no hitting.
Oh, yeah.
Like a little mini slap?
Yes.
Wow.
No, it was actually
It's very enlightening.
legitimate pointer finger. I would say poke, poke, and I would poke
That's
her.
annoying.
That's
so
why I did it. That's why I did it. Ron, it's podcast day.
Yes, International Podcast Day.
International.
Yes,
wow.
not just Ohio or national U.S. It's the whole wide world.
Oh.
I started to get kind of what's the point of saturation is the question I ask. There's so many podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so accessible to everyone that what I've heard statistics. It's like there's a gajillion podcasts now.
I think that's it. And that's the low end.
I think podcasts are growing faster than YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And yet it's still the theory which broadcasters have, which I think is very true, is content still rules. Like,
oh, yeah.
You can have a podcast, and if it's terrible, no one's going to listen to it. So saying you have one
doesn't really change much.
No.
To some extent, though, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. Like, it's going to pick up what it will. Like, I've noticed this on YouTube. Like, I pour my heart and my soul into these things. I'm like, yes, this is going to save someone. Goes nothing. An 8 second short of Scott laughing goes viral.
Right. Yeah, that did totally go viral. Yeah. Well, and then I even watch how some of my favorite podcasts over time, they start to slip.
Like they're not doing as good anymore, performing well?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
Like there's one, as a kid, I grew up, my parents loved Saturday Night Live. We would rent all the best of, John Belushi, the best of Dan Aykroyd, all that stuff at the video store. And there's a podcast out there where these two guys interview former cast members.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself at the beginning, as much as I loved it, I'm like, when are they going to run out of really interesting?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a limited pool.
Yeah.
And they ran out.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm sad because the podcast that they start interviewing people I never heard of. Not interesting.
No, it's not.
Yeah, even with TV shows, like most long-running sitcoms, their best stuff is between like season 3 and 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before that, they're like getting their footing under them, and then after that, it's all downhill.
They've lost it all, yeah.
But this is why Jerry Seinfeld was brilliant when the last season wasn't as great, but when he shut it down, you want to end on a high note, like George Costanza once said. You end on a high note.
He went out on top.
What else was I going to talk to you guys about? Lauren was gone. Did you have a great time?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what happened? You're an old lady now. You have a 1-year-old.
Yeah, we drove to Chicago and spent time with family. We were there for a wedding, and then we just decided to stay to see family and have our son's first birthday there.
First birthday. So you have
family.
2 kids.
Yes.
Now, you have said before that when Ellis travels in a car, he spends most of the time crying and screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that the case?
It wasn't as bad as it was last time we drove there, which was in June, but it was still pretty bad. I sat between the car seats all 6 hours.
Do you have to be holding his hand or something the whole time?
Basically, like entertaining him, yeah. Until he falls asleep, and then I got to listen to what I wanted to listen to.
So he's a little bit better if you're there, but still not happy.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Would it be better
and now
if
he
Eddie
can
was back?
eat snacks,
Oh.
And so I'm shoveling snacks in his face. Like,
Here.
here is a veggie straw, please.
Please stop.
Cheerios. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine how many snacks you have to bring with you because Trey likes a good snack too.
Oh, Trey ate the whole time. All 6 hours. And still ate dinner.
We had one good road trip years ago, and it was one where I spent a couple days really planning the snack bag, and I handed the children like a garbage bag full of snacks.
Yes.
And they finished it all in the first hour, but it was still
Exactly. On the way back, I had made
ration
pasta the night before we left, and they both loved it so much. I was like, there is no way I'm leaving this here. They loved this too much. And so I brought it in a bag in the car, and they ate pasta, cold pasta.
Nice.
And it was a marinara sauce, so it was like red all over their faces.
Yeah, but who cares?
Whatever makes them happy.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you dance the night away at this wedding?
They didn't do dancing. They did karaoke, which was very fun.
That's different and fun.
Yes, instead of dancing, they had karaoke. No, absolutely. I did not. Normally I would, but this was a wedding from a former choir member. The entire wedding was choir people. I was like, no.
Right.
And also the list was hours long because they're all choir people, so they all want to do it.
Yeah.
Did Eddie do it? He's a singer.
He was in line, but it was getting too late.
What was his choice?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was it a song dedicated to you?
No, not at all.
This one goes out to Lauren.
Yeah.
My girl.
Do you have a go-to song if you're doing a karaoke?
Not personally, no. Anything Disney's going to work.
Yeah.
Prince of Egypt, of course.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Phil Collins, Tarzan, anything.
Oh, yes.
Those are a little bit more. I mean,
You'll
one
Be
of
in My
those is DreamWorks, by the way. It's not even Disney.
Which one?
Prince of Egypt is DreamWorks.
Yeah, it is.
So Prince of Egypt, DreamWorks, or Disney's Tarzan, Phil Collins.
I would need the words to do that. Dee-ba-dee-dabba-doo-doo-ba-dabba-doo.
No, you did it.
You don't.
You did it.
Just hit notes. You're fine.
Is that what the one you would do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Skiddly bop, diddly bop, dee-ba-doo-ba-doo boo.
Yeah, Trash in the Camp.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it's called.
You're not going to give us a little.
No, not at all.
Now, the Prince of Egypt one, that was perfect of you on a Christian radio show to pick the only Christian.
The soundtrack is amazing.
The only Christian animated film that made that much
Even
money.
non-Christians love that soundtrack.
Which song would you do?
I don't know.
Wasn't Val Kilmer Moses, by the way, in that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not good at that kind of trivia.
Okay. But what's the song? It's the.
I don't know. I'd have to look him up.
Well, but that was the first thing you said, and you.
Yeah, I know. I just would choose anything from that.
Yeah, she would look at that and then see the list of songs and figure out.
I can't even say I know any of the songs.
Deliver Us. That's a good one.
If you've got a partner, The Plagues is great.
You got to have a partner.
You can't do that by yourself.
I love a partner karaoke song.
We should do a karaoke night for the show at some point.
Sure.
Hosted by you.
Okay.
You could start us off with the Prince of Egypt.
No, I'd make Eddie start us off.
Eddie would?
Yeah.
What
Good
would he
choice.
start with? What's his pick?
He likes the Killers. He'll do something from them probably.
I don't know what that is. Doesn't
The
sound
band,
very
The
Christian,
Killers? No, I think they're Mormons.
though. Oh, no. But he likes the music, so,
Yeah.
whatever.
They're a very popular band. That's what he would go with. Mr. Brightside, that's the Killers. You don't know Mr. Brightside?
No.
No.
It's not new either.
And now, as you smirk at my ignorance, let's just, let me pass one back to you, gently. We're playing tennis.
Okay.
I'm passing it back to you. I wrote you a note that said we need to have John Palmer back before the snow flies.
Yeah, the snowflies.
And you don't know what that means.
No, I don't know what that means.
Really?
Nope. I said, I don't know what snowflies means, but I'll invite John back.
It's like before winter. That's what that. It's
I
like
can't just say before it gets cold.
Apparently, it's an old timey phrase.
Apparently.
Ron, did you know that?
Oh, of course.
That's old timey.
I've lived in Northeast Ohio all my life, so yeah, I know when the snow flies. It flies in November typically, sometimes October even.
I was like, man, does he mean snow falls?
I guess that. Wow, it is like an old timey figure of speech.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a common phrase. Daria, you didn't know it, did you?
I inferred, but for a second, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it really took me a second. I was like, is that a spelling mistake or does he mean falls? Or I don't know what he's talking about.
But Ron, officially,
yes,
it's I'm not weird. That's a common phrase.
Right. If I were
Once upon a
wanting to
time, it
infer
was.
that, I would have written that same phrase, when the snow flies.
Thank you.
You almost hit your buzzer.
It was a close one. I actually was thinking the other day, too, like I wanted to remind you, don't forget every year you do a moron moment about when it's time to turn off the water outside.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. When the temperature
coming?
gets below freezing.
Oh, it's coming.
And you watch for that, right?
I do.
Yeah. I need you. I wanted to remind you I need you this year. Like I'm counting on this because I'm always afraid something bad's going to happen to my. I had one year where the water in my garage like just totally there's water lines out there. It froze and got messed up.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm counting on you. It'll be your fault if it gets.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I've had it freeze. I didn't disconnect and it froze up and broke inside the house.
Oh.
And then when you turn the spigot on in the spring, it's spraying water in your basement.
You don't want that.
No, that's not a good look.
Watch out. Both of you with your new houses.
Yes.
Jimmy knows how to winterize a house.
Taking note.
I think Jimmy knows everything.
He does.
Jimmy
Or he
knows
thinks
all.
he does.
He doesn't think that. Sweet Jimmy. He probably does. Okay, coming up here in just a minute, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, somebody in the New York Times has had a tradition since she's 12. She writes her own obituary every year.
Oh,
I am more concerned at this headline now.
And we're going to talk about that together.
Moody Radio's thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving the electrical industry nationwide for over 30 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
Moody has great resources to help your children know the Bible better and to know Jesus in a personal way. Today in the Word Family Studies. This month, we explore the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes in our family study titled, God Gives Our Lives Meaning. They'll learn that it all comes from a relationship with God. To get your Today in the Word devotional and free go-along family study, go to todayintheword.com. Spend time in God's Word together.
19. That's how many pairs of shoes the average American has in their closet. 1. That's how many pairs of shoes it takes to share health, education, opportunity, and the love of Christ to a child in need in the world. Buckner Shoes for Orphan Souls has been meeting this need, providing more than 5 million pairs of shoes to children in some of the most vulnerable communities in the world. That's over 5 million opportunities to put a smile on the face of a child and show the love of Christ to boys and girls living in desperate situations. Many times these shoes introduce families to Christ-centered programs, helping them to rise above poverty and achieve their God-given potential. You can make a difference now. Join Buckner Shoes for Orphan Souls in changing the lives of children across the world through the gift of shoes. I'm Rob West, inviting you to provide shoes today by visiting giveshoestoday.org. That's giveshoestoday.org.
Brian's third grade teacher left us a voicemail.
Please record your message.
I always thought that Brian would be a circus performer or a radio host. At least I got one right.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF. Hey, Share's coming up on Wednesday. Our fall fundraising campaign where we ask for your financial support. That's how we keep the lights on and the radio broadcasting and all the things is due to your donations. Been doing it that way since the very beginning in 1958 at this radio station.
Yeah.
So some of you, your great-grandmother helped start this station, and she'd probably be happy if you helped continue it.
And just for the record, it's really hard to do the radio show with no lights.
It is.
So we need to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
It's dark when we show up.
Yeah. So would you help? So all you have to do for more information is go to our website, go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland, moodyradio.org/Cleveland, or you can also call 800-600-9624, 800-600-9624. So you all had a funny reaction to this. So Kelly McMaster for the New York Times, she wrote an opinion piece. Why I write my own obituary every year. She's been writing her own obituary since she's 12 years old every year as like a annual practice. Why the funny reaction before?
So I saw this morning. I'm like, okay, that's different. Figuring this is like someone in their 40s or 50s. We'll figure out why they do this. And then I heard 12. I'm like, man, that is morbid. Someone get this child some help.
So when she started, I saw that too. I was like, what? You started this at 12? That's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Was it a school project or did she just get the impetus to do it herself?
Okay, that's the right question. And I felt a lot better when I figured out the reason why.
Okay.
So she's 12 years old. Her mom decides to volunteer at a hospice care center. And part of the weeding out process, in a sense, is that they ask their volunteers as part of their training to write their own obituary. And a lot of people drop out because it's too heavy of a thing. But you're going to be helping people walk through their final days, weeks, months. And that's a heavy responsibility. And so I can understand the power of that assignment, right? Where you have to be reflective of your own life because people will be doing that right in front of you.
Yes.
Well, her mom, though, she decided, I can do this. She came to the dinner table. She sat down with the family, 12-year-old little girl sitting there, Kelly. And she says, would you guys help me with this? I need to write an obituary. Like, what's in one? You're still disturbed.
I'm more disturbed now.
Yeah, me too.
Disturbed. Really?
No, that is not something you want to make your 12-year-old child go through, thinking about their parents' death. I mean, unfortunately, some kids do lose their parents young, but why would you do that with your spouse or sister, mom, someone else besides your child?
Lauren?
Yeah, it feels a little extreme to ask your kid to think about your death.
I guess she wasn't scarred by it.
Wow.
That she realizes.
Maybe she needs to be in therapy to find out more.
I already think she is scarred. If she's writing her obituary every year, there's something wrong in there.
So let me share with you more and see how you feel about it, about what she says. So an obituary, she said, includes the facts, including age and home, survivors, achievements in work and school, and finally, community, and how people might remember you.
Right.
And so the way she uses it essentially as a way to take stock of her year, be reflective on the last year of her life. And she says, here's a couple quotes for you to process. She says, I usually end up with a gentle accounting of the year held against all the past ones. I found many of the accomplishments that felt precious one year were hardly worth a mention the next. Also, she says, writing your obituary while you're still alive can offer clarity about your life, and mercifully, if you find something lacking, you still have time to revise.
Yep, I get that.
Okay, tell me more. You're starting to get a little bit warmer to this.
Yeah, at 12, I wouldn't, he leaves behind his teddy bear, Teddy, and the mouse from school in 5th grade or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I could see starting this in your 50s or 60s for sure. And it does give you that chance to reflect on your life. What have I accomplished? What legacy am I leaving? A lot of people will meditate on what legacy am I leaving. This is almost the exact same. You just add in a few dates and, names of family members. But the real part of it that's important is what have I done? What will people remember me for?
Yeah, I remember I was a producer of a radio show, and the host was really good, and he loved legacy as a question. It was a Christian radio show. and we had a chance to interview a secular Jewish, very famous radio host. And one of the questions, and the guy's just real sharp. Christian host asked him, "What's your legacy?" And the guy couldn't answer the question. He fumbled.
Wow.
And he was in his 60s. He hadn't ever reflected on it.
Interesting.
Ladies, now that you've heard the old people talk about legacy, you feel any better about this? Or we just decided a 12-year-old should not be writing an obituary?
I think it's great to be reflective, even at a young age. Like I have a habit of at the end of every year, I'll sit down and kind of think about the year in review, like all the major events. Did I accomplish everything I said I was going to do that year? Because I write goals at the beginning of the year as well. And I think those are good habits to instill young, to be reflective and think about your life. But I'm a little weirded out by, I mean, if she's an adult, she can do what she wants, but I'm still very weirded out by a 12-year-old writing her obituary.
Yeah, I think in the end, hearing your guys' hesitation to this, you ladies, I think 12-year-olds is probably far too young for that. But being in my mid-40s now, I kind of go, I get that exercise could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, for an adult.
For a very grown adult.
I think part of the problem is the framework. Obituary is something that's written after you die. So you're, projecting yourself into after my death. If you frame it instead as, like Daria said, what were the goals that you set forth for this year? Did you accomplish them? Yes or no? And why? Maybe, your goal was to grow a great garden in Florida, and no, didn't do it because I moved to Ohio. Things like that can change how your goals are, but you can reflect on that and then set new goals. It doesn't have to be, and you die.
Well, and I thought, I think generally speaking, it could be something a Christian could do in very clear conscience, an activity as an older person. I thought of, first of all, James 1:22, be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Like you could say to yourself in reflecting on an obituary of the last year, was I a doer of the word or just a hearer of the word? I also thought of Psalm 139:23, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. Like if you allow yourself to reflect on your heart and your actions in the last year, are they reflective of Christ? And then even if you have a stack of these, reflecting on a couple of previous years and going, have I grown spiritually? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'm still just hanging out watching Netflix every night.
Right.
Just a thought. But again, keep obituary writing activities away from your children.
18 plus only.
And also don't ask them to write it for you.
Okay. I love it. Okay. It's 6:32, time for a quick break. When we come back, our good friend, Dr. Philip Bernard from the Christian Medical and Dental Association and Cleveland Clinic is going to talk to us about the potential pitfalls and promises and helps of AI in medicine.
Hi, my name is Joe Abraham, and this is Pause for Prayer. Have you ever been in this place before? Relationships are falling apart. My work career has been devastated, and my health every day seems like another trial. You start to get very weary, very discouraged, and finally doubt and questioning sets in. Your mind is bombarded with fleeting thoughts. I thought God loved me. Where is he when I need him most? It seems like my unbelieving friends never suffer. Wrong. Read Psalm 34. It sounds like a mini version of the great story of Job. A righteous and blameless man, Job experienced overwhelming testing from Satan and despairing counsel from his friends. How did he stay afloat? Let's pause today and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we bless your holy name and thank you for your committed love to your children and all who trust in the sacrifice of your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. Your amazing grace has given us not only far beyond what we deserve, but also what we could never accomplish on our own. We thank you for the Word of God and the realness of it. Life can be challenging because of the fall of man, even for the saved. But the reality of life is that we still deal with discouragement and often need help. Job suffered great loss to his possessions, his family, and even his personal health. Added to that was poor counsel that he received from his friends. At times he felt like quitting and even defended his own righteousness and blamelessness in front of a holy God. May we, like Job, remember this great life marker, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet I will see in my flesh God. It doesn't get any better than that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Moody Radio is thankful for Kingdom Story Company, the creators of Jesus Revolution, and now releasing White Bird, a wonder story. Julian learns the compassionate and heroic story of his grandmother's plight to escape Nazi-occupied France during World War II. White Bird, rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters October 4th. More information is available at whitebird.com. That's whitebird.com.
Intensifying, increasing, up 388% in the United States. That's how law enforcement and Jewish organizations describe the rise in anti-Semitism since the October 7th attack on Israel. What is anti-Semitism and what fuels it? On Saturday, November 9th, Moody Bible Institute and Chosen People Ministries host the Summit on Opposing Anti-Semitism on Moody's Chicago campus. Discover practical ways to support the Jewish people and stand against hate. For more details, visit moodyconferences.com.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Elevation Worship on WCRF, where it is 640. And again, our share campaign starts Wednesday. We need your financial support to keep this thing rolling. So you can get your gift in now. And we'd love to thank you on the air. And there's other things we'll tell you about, like special thank you gifts for new donors and things. All that to come in a bit. But for now, just go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or call 800-600-9624. Well, he's a friend of the show. He is a family physician at Cleveland Clinic, and he's chairperson of the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. Welcome back, Dr. Philip Bernard.
Good morning, Brian. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
So we're going to talk a bit about AI today in medicine, and to get us in there, I have to ask you this. If a patient comes in and says, I was looking on the internet, like what starts happening in your mind? Are you like, oh, great, another WebMD?
Yeah. I wish it was just WebMD, but there's so many other things people are looking at now, so it's really gotten interesting.
Is it a frustration as a doctor that some of us try to self-diagnose, or is there a measure in which that's helpful?
I think in this day and age, it's unfortunately a very important need because I think what's happening in medicine today is that the young people are using those outside sources more and more as they become less able to speak to their doctor and to interact with their physician as we did 30, 40 years ago. And so, to wait for a doctor to tell you, well, you probably do need to come in for this mole, and, the mole is growing and you're not sure what's going on, you're going to go to outside sources no matter what, because they're out there, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And so as a physician, you have to be ready for that people have already done a lot of research before they come to see you.
Yeah, and it's almost inevitable on those sites, too, that, you have a headache and somehow it thinks you might have cancer.
Well, I think that the problem with kind of using those sources is that you don't know how your symptoms come together. And, if you have a headache because you've got, a virus, or you are having a tension headache because you've just been stressed for a while, or you've been working outside and, you've kind of just overused those muscles around your neck and you have a headache because of that, you're just not going to be able to necessarily put it all together.
Yeah.
But those are the simple things that a doctor can deal with. The other things really have to do with what's going on today with machine learning and the use of AI. I think that there are things coming down the pike that are very exciting, but we have to be very careful and we have to be very thoughtful about, how we use AI in medicine.
Well, let's talk about some of the promising things for AI in medicine. What are you excited about that AI can offer?
I think one of the greatest promises is that it's going to deal with an area of medicine that is really frustrating for most physicians right now, and that is the electronic medical record. And the fact that I heard a funny story the other day of children pretending to be doctors, and the story was they weren't using the stethoscope and listening to each other's hearts or anything like that. They were pretending to be on a computer, looking the other way and talking to someone turning their back to them.
That's not what you want.
I thought, wow, yes, even the kids are picking this up.
Yeah.
How things have changed. I think that there's a lot of things in healthcare. AI is expected to dominate the healthcare landscape within a few years now. I mean, it's going to be a big, big turnaround that most of us are going to notice. But the reason for that is because there's just not enough doctors for our aging population. And machine learning, that involves layered neural networks to look for patterns, kind of a issue of pattern identification, is really the wave of the future in medicine. Just like, it's changed the way we watch TV, the way we watch science fiction movies, where everything is looking so real now because they can create visual patterns that look so much like what we see with the human eye that you're not sure if you're looking at a picture, a cartoon, or if it's AI generated visual, and speech recognition that's being used. So it's getting that way. But for medicine, we just don't have enough doctors. There's just a growing awareness that the healthcare system right now doesn't have the man or the woman power to do what it needs to do. I was reading a story the other day of the fact that the number of mammograms that are needed in order to effectively look at every woman in the United States with a mammogram, we don't have enough equipment, technology, radiologists. We don't have enough to do it. And so, a lot of women will not get a timely mammogram because we just don't have it. And that's why we're going overseas and sending our x-rays overseas to be read by other people. And we still can't do it right now. And the nice thing that helps that, what's going on with AI and the acceptance of AI, is that, about 44% of young people between the ages of 18 and 34 believe that using the internet, using ChatGPT, and these sources, they can know as much about their disease as their doctors do. And so there's a natural move towards that. And the truth is, the business community and the government is betting that AI will help move us, or at least the majority of the health people, out of the classical medical model and, get them into a technology-driven, personalized care where they can put their Fitbit on, and with remote monitoring, they can have their sleep apnea diagnosed. They can have their cardiac arrhythmias diagnosed. They can get, ongoing management of their asthma, their COPD, their blood pressure monitoring, their diabetes. And in dermatology, which is what I do, you can get on a mobile phone that's got AI in it and send a picture that will tell you that, this is probably a melanoma. And if you're at a remote site somewhere in the United States, or you can't get to a dermatologist, it's going to do a lot of the work that are now being done by doctors. So it's an ongoing evolution that's happening right now.
Well, and see, to me, that could be very positive. You could be more efficient as a physician if you're having AI help synthesize all the data that you be coming in, right?
Absolutely, and it's going to lead to earlier interventions. If you think about it, if you've got someone who's very sick but who doesn't need to be hospitalized, and you can monitor them by putting a Fitbit type machine on them, you can diagnose when they're going bad a lot earlier, and that's going to be an earlier intervention that saves lives. Wow. So AI has many, many promises. In the hospital, it will allow doctors to integrate huge amounts of data that they have right now. Ever since we went away from writing everything, computers have been collecting data. The problem is that they don't have the time to process that data over a 10-year span. Oh. And, when we do research right now, we have to, do it based on, going forward, what we do where we control all the variables. Well, if you can get the data from AI of a large population over a long period of time, the information is probably as good as what we're doing with all these studies that we do. And it's going to change. It's going to change everything.
That's super exciting. It's 6:49. Our guest is Dr. Philip Bernard on Mornings with Brian on WCRF. We're talking about the promise and the pitfalls of AI in the field of medicine. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the pitfalls, as exciting as those potential things are in the promise. What are they? We'll get to the pitfalls in a minute.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
Hello.
Roland Warren here with your Pro-Abundant Life Minute. Have you ever heard the pro-choice expression, no womb, no say? It's used by activists to prevent men from expressing their opinions about abortion. But recently, the pro-choice movement has been violating its own rules by mobilizing men to be more vocal in their support for abortion. Through this effort, the pro-choice movement has exposed an ugly truth about its ideology. Several activists have said that men should be in favor of abortion because it makes them more free. Of course, this is a freedom without responsibility. But sadly, it's a freedom that leaves women in bondage to the physical, emotional, and spiritual consequences of abortion, as well as millions of aborted babies. And that's not the kind of freedom that any man should have. For more pro-abundant life insights, visit care-net.org.
Counseling, it's what God created you to do. When you earn your Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from Moody Bible Institute, you'll be equipped to help others become who God created them to be. Study at Moody's Chicago or Michigan campus, where you can secure certificates in the areas of marriage, family, and couples counseling, as well as trauma-informed counseling. Learn more and get started on your counseling career today. Go to moody.edu/counseling.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
6:51, Share starts on Wednesday. Learn more about how to support this radio station with your donor dollars right now by going to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or call 800-600-9624. Today, we have right now with us Dr. Philip Bernard. He is a family physician specializing in dermatology at Cleveland Clinic, also the chairperson of the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. And we're chatting a bit about the promise and the pitfalls of artificial intelligence in medicine. Now, you shared some really exciting areas of promise that honestly are exciting. But what are your concerns in terms of the pitfalls of AI in medicine?
Yeah, I think the thing that I want to talk to this morning more than the pitfalls, because there's so many and we can't see sometimes what's coming down the pike as a pitfall. But I think the most important thing that's happening with AI, the reason why I'm interested in this subject is because of the fact that 1986, I came out of residency at University Hospital, and I started with a small practice, and I could see 30 patients a day and feel I connected with most of them. Now I see 20 patients a day, and I'm absolutely exhausted.
Really?
Yeah, most evenings, because I have to put at least 2 or 3 hours of work every night to deal with the messages, the medication issues, the chart completion issues, the administrative responsibilities that I have. I have to put that much time into it. And, we've talked about physician burnout before, and that's a big part of it is the electronic medical records, the EMR. And AI is going to change all of that, because now I'm going to be able to walk into a room, take my phone that's got the system downloaded on it and connect it to my computer in the office and put it down, turn it on, and see my patient, talk to them face to face. I don't have to look at that computer. And now I can just sound out all of my diagnosis, physical diagnosis, things that I find. And the computer is taking the information, and it's not just copying down what I said and what the patient said. It is integrating it into a legible, beautiful, well-organized note that is now put into the chart.
Oh.
All I have to do now is review it, accept it, and sign it. Can you imagine that?
That's a game changer.
What that's going to mean for the doctors. It is a game changer. And all of the big institutions right now are piloting programs to do that, and it's going to have the biggest change in the doctors' lives that we've seen in the past 20 or 30 years. So this is really big. Now, having said that, I think the problem is what do we lose in the process of the game? And that is part of the pitfalls of this whole system. I think, now you can go on the internet, on ChatGPT, and get all kinds of diagnoses that are pretty good about what's going on with you if you know what the stuff to put into it. But the problem is now there's going to be some doctors who are going to be saying, "Hey, I don't have time to do anything. I'm just going to go to ChatGPT and pull out a diagnosis. If it sounds pretty good, I might even use it." That's not a good idea.
No.
Because not because of the way the internet is. I mean, ChatGPT is looking at a lot of internet data that some of it is not good, but it has to enter kind of like put this whole thing together and say, okay, this is probably what it is. But if a doctor is doing that, that is not a good thing, because again, it's only as good as the data that was put into it. And even studies that are on the internet, if you don't have good references, you don't really know how powerful those studies really are, or if are they just a study that involved 10 people. So you have, as a physician, you have to be careful about using AI to generate the same kind of information that patients do. I guess the other big thing is dependency. Technology doesn't always work. I mean, there are days when the Cleveland Clinic will, the computer will shut down, and we're scrambling to try to do paper charts on patients. And I'll tell you, that's the most anxious, depressed. I mean, people look so confused because we don't write down information anymore without that computer. I think the other issue is the potential for sabotage, because I think, all large institutions have faced that, where there are things that are put into the computer to try to, maybe someone who's got good computer knowledge who's trying to get revenge for something that happened to them, or some outside organization or outside the country trying to extort money from large institutions. So hackers is a big concern. I think the other is who's going to be controlling this? Are the doctors going to be in charge? Are the patients going to have some say as to what happens once AI becomes the dominant thing within the healthcare industry? I think right now we believe that the doctors run the doctors are running the system, but we know that's not always true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, who's going to govern the ethics of this new system that seems completely untethered from the Judeo-Christian or even the societal norms that we kind of use to determine if you're going to do something? Because ethics is still at the heart of medicine. And I think as we get away from that, and as we focus more on what works best, what helps the most people, the question is going to be, how are we going to keep the ethics of our of medicine that is based on Judeo-Christian norms? How are we going to keep that? So to me, that's really the big question, the overarching question that we have to answer.
Great stuff, Dr. Bernard. One final thing to circle back on. I'm super excited for my physician friends about this potential of AI with the data entry portions of keeping medical records. You said a lot of major institutions are piloting this. So this is really a foreseeable future kind of thing. When would you anticipate you start seeing this implemented?
It's happening now.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I'm doing a pilot program, AI pilot program at the Cleveland Clinic, where I am actually using one of the systems, which is called Ambien, Ambien system. And I have it put into my computer. And right now, I can go and see a patient, talk to them, get the note written, and move to my next patient and not look behind me.
Wow.
Everything's already in there, and the patient, I have not touched the computer.
And
So
you're
I'm
big time. You get to pilot this. Look at you.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. It's very exciting, but I'm already thinking about the things we need to be concerned about as Christians, and how the system will expect doctors to deal with this. Are we going to be asked to see 30 or 40 patients now since we have the system?
Yeah.
And how do we push back and say no? Now that I've gotten back some of my life, how do I keep that? That's going to be those are going to be the challenges facing us in the next 5-10 years.
Well, our guest this morning on Mornings with Brian on WCRF has been Dr. Philip Bernard, again, a family physician specializing in dermatology at Cleveland Clinic. He's also the chairperson of the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. Highly recommend anyone in the industry of medicine listening, whether you're a nurse practitioner, dentist, dental assistant, whatever it is. This is a great place for Christian physicians to get together and find commonality and learn and build relationship. Go to neocmda.com. Northeast Ohio Christian Medical and Dental Association, neocmda.com. Doc, as always, thank you so much for your time.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Just real quick. We've got our big conference coming up. This is our fall conference on October 11th and 12th. And this is for physicians and medical students and students in training, students in, early doctors in their residency programs. We're going to be talking about ethics in medicine, ethics and medical care. Dr. Christian Tollefson, a national speaker, will be there. We encourage you to go on our site and find out about it and to register.
Yeah, go to neocmda.com for more. In worst case, come to us. We'd love to connect you. Doc, as always, we're grateful for you, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Brian. Have a great day.
You too. It is 7:01. Quick heads up for you. Coming up at 7:30, Dr. David Mullane from Yost Insurance will be here to answer your Medicare questions. And he's going to answer the question how the Inflation Reduction Act will impact prescription drug coverage for Medicare recipients in 2025. Which is a big deal if you're on Medicare. Listen into that. That's half an hour from now. You can always text in your questions early to 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. And then coming up after Ron's news and today's Moron Moment, we're going to chat a bit about a new study revealing, as it claims, the real reason unchurched people are not going to church.
Okay.
Why aren't they going to church? Well, we've got some answers to discuss together in a few minutes.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Biden says he would not intervene to stop a potential dock worker strike. It's 7:03. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. While speaking to reporters in Delaware, Biden says he doesn't believe in the Taft-Hartley Act, a law which would allow him to delay a strike with a court order. Thousands of longshoremen are set to strike this week amid stalled labor contract talks with the U.S. Maritime Alliance. An unsolved North Olmsted double murder is set to be featured in an upcoming episode of a Netflix series. 40-year-old Nell Sledge and 33-year-old Kate Brown were shot to death at the Rocky River Reservation in June of 2019. The case will be highlighted on the new season Unsolved Mysteries, premiering Wednesday. And the Cleveland Metropark Zoo is making history. Thanks to an association with a nonprofit called Rooted in Trees, the Cleveland Zoo is set to become the first U.S. zoo to host a mini forest. Over 800 trees have been planted on zoo property in a space about the size of a tennis court. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Moody Radio is thankful for Kingdom Story Company, the creators of Jesus Revolution, and now releasing White Bird, a wonder story. Julian learns the compassionate and heroic story of his grandmother's plight to escape Nazi-occupied France during World War II. White Bird, rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters October 4th. More information is available at whitebird.com. That's whitebird.com.
In sports, the Browns fell to the Raiders 20-16. Meantime, the Steelers are no longer undefeated, falling to the Colts 27-24. The regular season finale between the Guardians and the Astros got canceled due to rain. The team will start its postseason run from home on Saturday. And the Pirates fell to the Yankees 6-4 in their regular season finale. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy skies with a chance of showers this afternoon. Our high temperatures are going to be in the mid-70s. And at last check, we had cloudy skies in Cleveland, 66 degrees. Akron and Canton, cloudy now, 63. Clear skies in Ashtabula, where it's 61 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Podcasts have fundamentally changed the way people consume audio, and for that reason, we celebrate on September 30th. Here's to International Podcast Day. With roots going back to the 1980s, believe it or not, what we recognize as podcasts today actually took off in the early 2000s. Like a broadcast, but they are POD, playable on demand. And if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, may I humbly suggest the series by our own Brian Dolan, The Grandfather Effect. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:06. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Divine Studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
David Crowder. And it's Monday, and all is well because Lauren Cuevas is back.
Woohoo!
Oh, she's back. She's doing the parade wave. Oh, that was great. It was more of just a wrist. You didn't do the elbow.
That's okay.
Or the royal one where they just kind of flow their hand.
The Queen, I think, and the Pope does that too, doesn't he? Doesn't he do like the backhanded wave?
They don't want their mom arms to flap, so you got to do just a wrist.
Is that?
I don't know. That's why celebrities do it. That's why celebrities do like this one.
Where they stick their hands out and just clap their hands. Because they don't want their arms to flap?
Yeah, because otherwise your arms flap.
Everybody's arms
Unless you're
flap.
very muscular.
No wonder Ron and my arms don't flap.
Flap free.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Don't worry, you'll take off. Just fly away.
But we're going to take off on our fall fundraising campaign.
Nice segue.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the reason I'm here. Yeah. Wednesday starts Fall Share.
Yeah.
And this is not our first full Fall Share with the whole team in studio, is it?
Yes, it is, because I wasn't here last Fall Share. I've been here for both spring shares, just not last Fall Share.
Okay.
Yeah, because had you started yet last fall? Yes, you started yet.
She was on maternity leave.
But you were on maternity leave last fall.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a difficult time with time.
I guess so.
It just feels like you've been here forever and only for a blink.
I started
all at the same
in
time.
March of 2023.
Either way, the first full team event in studio.
That is
in the fall.
This is so dramatic.
In the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. And if I recall, you weren't really here for Fall Share last year either.
That's right. You were sick.
Oh, I got
Ron, Josh, and I had to run point.
I remember I was
sick.
So you weren't here either.
yeah.
So get off of her back.
Awake in the wee hours of the morning with the new baby, and I was like, "Oh, it's Cher. I'm up anyway. I'll listen." I was like, "Where's Brian?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, what has happened?" I left, and Brian's not even on during Cher.
I couldn't speak without coughing. It was so bad. So for a lot of reasons, it's a big Fall Share.
Yeah,
we're back.
And if I can play a bit of audio that'll give us a reason to support Moody Radio in our Fall Share.
Pastor Scott Lessing from Grace Church and the Pressing On podcast.
And so I was really lonely, and I just said, you know what? Someone has to be reading the Bible or teaching about God. And so I just started searching, and it landed on 103.3. I was living in Lakewood with my brother, and I had a 30-minute drive to work. And Tony Evans, man, he spoke right to my soul. And I remember driving down Route 90, coming back to Lakewood, and I put my trust in Jesus as I was listening to Tony, as he's saying, if this is you, you should really trust in Jesus right now. And so I did. And yeah, Moody Radio has a big place in my heart. Yeah.
Our friend, Pastor Scott Lessing from Grace Church. That's fantastic.
And that's one of my favorite clips to play, because not only does it highlight this station, 103.3, and the difference that we make in our community, but how that goes on and multiplies, because Pastor Scott became, well, he wasn't a pastor at that point. He became Pastor Scott, was doing men's ministries at Grace Church. Then they decided they had a heart for the inmates at Lorain Correctional. He became the campus pastor at Lorain Correctional and is making a huge difference out there. And, how one simple act of playing Tony Evans on the radio at that time made a difference that continues to throw ripples out across the pond, as it were.
Yeah, and you hear so many people who have been either introduced to Jesus or discipled in following Christ through this radio station and this ministry. And it makes a huge difference for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And Pastor Scott is even listening right now and just texted in, God is good. He is so good, Pastor Scott, all the time.
And the only reason we can keep, we say the lights on, but keep broadcasting is by the listeners supporting us. We don't, sell 20 minutes of advertising every hour like you hear on some stations. We rely on the support from the listeners. And if you're blessed by what you hear and you view it maybe as a mission to the greater Northeast Ohio community, then please support us.
Be like Jonathan in Akron, who increased his monthly gift.
Thank
we
you.
have some others, Lauren, that have given.
Yeah, Joseph in Cleveland, David in North Olmsted, Nidra in Cleveland, Robert and Karen in Maslin, Richard in Twinsburg, Kelton in Akron, Michael in Cleveland. Yay.
Yeah, guys, you did it. Would you consider a gift now? I mean, you don't have to wait till we start officially on Wednesday, because it's off and running now. It's already going. And you could get your gift in today at moodyradio.org/Cleveland, moodyradio.org/Cleveland, or call 800-600-9624, 800-600-9624. So used to Kathleen singing that. I thought maybe Lauren would give it a whirl for
thank
us.
you.
Kathleen sat right where you sit.
Yes.
And she sang it so beautifully. I bet you would too.
Well, we're different people, so.
Just because they share a chair does not mean they're the same person.
But you have a lovely singing voice. I've heard it.
Yeah. That's nice.
I know it's
I'll show it
nice.
to you at karaoke. Off the air.
Man, someday, Ron.
Hopefully.
Someday.
Hopefully.
Love to hear it.
Oh, no.
The whole city, the whole area, the whole region is pining to
Oh
hear
my
you
gosh,
sing.
I don't think so. You know what they are pining for? Daria to sing again. Maybe we'll have to do another. Give this much, and
we shall see.
Don't
We'll
even
see.
think about beard challenges this time. I'm not ever doing that again.
But I'm already thinking about it.
I'm not ever doing that again.
It was like so horrifying to look at for a while. Like, it was like
I had to look in the mirror.
For several days. I was like, I'm not really sure I know where I am.
Who is this?
Yeah.
It's like I know the voice, but the face does not match.
Yes, exactly.
In any way, shape, or form. It was the
I
weirdest
don't like seeing
thing.
your teeth that much. It was just too much.
For those who missed it, I was forced into shaving my beard for a
agreed.
challenge.
That is
agreed.
Because
not
I thought
true.
it would be so outrageous
I
that
sat
someone would
right
donate.
here. It's burned
And you
in my
still
brain.
agreed.
Yeah, it's burned in my brain. And you just stared at Dave. You both just like looked at each other.
He didn't warn me.
And you just stared at him and you just kept looking at each other and you didn't say anything.
Because I was processing in my head as Dave's challenge was, if someone donates $5,000
During a match.
yeah, to have Brian shave his beard, I'll throw in $5,000. I was like, no one's going to do this.
Yes.
And then he goes, and he'll shave his beard.
Yeah, for $5,000. I was like, no one's doing this. And someone did it.
Someone did it.
And so I know better now.
We'll find something else. Dave is here every day, 3 days for a full hour.
Big money
Wow.
Dave.
So
BMD.
Why can't one of you do something like that?
I did
Daria
something
and
last
Ron did.
time.
You should get pixie cuts for $5,000.
pass.
I'll
No,
get a
thank
pixie
you.
cut for free.
Oh,
Really?
Really?
You should do it.
Maybe.
Lauren, pixie
yes.
cut.
No, thank you.
You could get like a mom bob.
And
You
look
know,
like Kate Gosling? No, thanks.
Yeah, one of those. Oh, with the short in the back and the
Huge.
it's like a reverse mullet.
And then you'd have to start hitting Eddie all the time.
Oh, did she do that? That's
Oh,
sad.
no, she was so mean to
She was
him.
really
Yeah,
mean
she
to
was
John.
mean.
All right, it is 7:18. Time for a quick break. Again, 800-600-9624, moodyradio.org/Cleveland. There was a big study done by the Church Answers research team about why people, huge study of Christians and non-Christians alike, why people don't go to church. It's important for us to know why they don't go so we can maybe motivate them to attend. Think about what you know about this. Like, why do you think people don't go to church? We'll examine the answers together in a minute.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving the electrical industry nationwide for over 30 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
$7:25 on Mornings with Brian, Moody Radio Cleveland. Fall shares coming up starting on Wednesday. Get your gifts in now. Call or text 800-600-9624 or just go to moodyradio.org. It's right there at the top banner. Brian, you want to talk to us about unchurched people?
Yeah, so there was a survey done by Church Answers about why people who are unchurched don't go to church. They want to know, like, if you're not a church attender, why aren't you?
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
What have you guys heard about this, first of all? Like, what's your general understanding about why unchurched people are not going to church? Besides, like, I'm not a Christian, you know, I mean.
Okay.
That Christians are judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
That they're fake or hypocritical.
Sure, you hear those complaints.
Mm-hmm.
The style, either I don't like the quote unquote rock band worship, or I don't like the pipe organ worship. You know, so they try one church and didn't like it, and that's it. They don't realize, there's a lot of different styles among churches.
Yeah, and see, that was the general understanding of the researchers, is like, those are the reasons why people don't go to church.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was they asked a survey of a huge group of people across the country, and you could pick up to 3 reasons on this huge list of reasons, right? And the top 4 answers had nothing to do with what either of you said.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
And not that they weren't a Christian or something.
There was only one of them. So like the number 3 answer was, I have different beliefs than Christians.
Okay.
Right.
But of the top 4, 3 of them were from people who would be open to going. They just so here's the top 4 reasons. Number 4, I'm indifferent about issues of faith. Just like, whatever. Number
so
3,
not a Christian.
Yeah, or like, I'm just not all that.
I think there's a difference between I'm not a Christian and I just don't care.
Yeah, it's more just like, I don't know, I don't care. Number 3 was, I have different beliefs than Christians. Duh. Number 2, I got out of the habit of going.
That's a big one.
A lot of people did that during COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the number 1 reason people gave that are unchurched for not going to church is church is not necessary in their minds.
That's sad.
I think even a lot of Christians who would say they're saved and maybe are saved would say that.
Yeah, and so the researchers walk away going, this is interesting. People are not mad at the church. I mean, some are, but the numbers are very small.
Mm-hmm.
People are not mad at the church. They're not too busy. The reason they're not going is indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just indifferent about it. And they see that as a positive.
Okay.
Like, you can work with indifference.
Yeah.
Instead of like hatred or something.
Yeah, it's really hard to turn hatred around.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree with that assessment, generally speaking, that indifference is something we can work with in a culture?
In some ways, I think that's harder to deal with because you can confront hatred with love and show them that they're wrong. But if they're indifferent, I don't know how you, because like if you hate, you do care. But I don't see how you can make someone care when they don't.
Right, because with indifference, it's like, well, that's good for you, but I just like, that's just not for me.
Well, so the survey also asked them a similar question, but it would be, why would you start attending church? What would make you go? Pick up to 3 reasons.
Okay.
Top 4. Number 4, my spouse wants to go.
That's nice.
So we might get twice the the result if we can just convince one person. Number 3, someone invited me. Number 2, God told me to go, which some might view as positive. I could see that as a very snarky answer.
Right.
I'd only go if the Lord himself told me to go.
Well, he can do that. So.
He did.
He can tell you that.
It's in the Bible.
And number 1, I want to grow spiritually. Like, I think the surprise to researchers was, these are not so bad.
I wonder where in the list falls, my kids want to go, or I want my kids to be under better influences or something like that.
I've seen that a lot lately, just in various online circles popping up. I'm not religious at all, but my kids are interested in church. What do I do?
Yeah, we talked about it a while ago. I saw it twice in 1 week in my area.
Really? Tell me more about that.
It was 2 people in 1 week. One was like for our general like city Facebook page, and one was like a mom's page. And they were like, "Oh, my kid is showing interest in going to church. I didn't grow up in church. I don't know. I don't have any idea. Do you guys have some suggestions?"
And this person was unchurched but open to the idea, like, oh, that's a good idea, go to church.
Yeah. And then there was another one. I don't think I talked about this here, but I told Pastor Scott about it, is in a mom's group, someone was asking about where to go, and someone suggested Grace Church of Middleburg Heights because they love their children's ministry. And we're so blessed by their children's ministry.
Yeah, see, it makes me wonder, like there are people out there with church hurt that hate Christians. There is that thing. But then you hear stories like that and you go, well, clearly these people who are unchurched have lived their entire lives and do not have an anti-Christian perspective on life.
Yeah,
in fact,
people,
they're like, my kid wants to go. Maybe we should go.
Yeah. Or if that's what they want, I'll support them.
They just weren't raised in that tradition, which I find stories like that incredibly encouraging because we spend so much time writing articles and doing surveys. Why aren't people not in church? And then you see someone who's a second generation or maybe more not Christian, and just out of the blue, a child who has no outside perspective says, I want to go to church. And maybe the whole family gets saved. That's God.
Amen. And I think it also should embolden us to just make simple invitations. Just if you get to know somebody, hey, you know what? We're going to church. We got this great church. You want to join us?
Yeah,
We'd
was
love
it
to have you meet us
reason
there.
number 3? If someone invited me, I go?
Yeah.
Well, then we should be out inviting people.
Just don't be weird about it. It's my thing.
Oh, it's like, someone says no? Okay, who cares? They said no.
Cool. See you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to get freaky about it. Very cool. I'm encouraged by this research and by your analysis team. Way to go. 7:31, we're up against a quick break. When we come back, watch out. Our friend Dr. David Mullane is back to answer your Medicare questions. Why? Because, I don't know, most of it doesn't make any sense. Right? I mean, most people you talk
Part
to super
LMNOP.
confused. Yes.
I have part XY and part C. I'd like that.
And G no longer exists, I think he said once. I don't.
Jeez.
Who knows? So, do you have a question about Medicare? This is the time. Call or text right now, and David Mullane will answer those questions in just a few moments. 440-546-2255. Again, 440-546-2255.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. When I listen to the polling statistics of which presidential candidate is ahead today, I ask myself the question, how accurate can that poll be? I realize that each candidate takes a small lead over the other back and forth for months before the election. I wonder if these polls influence us as voters and make us wonder near or on the voting day that my candidate is ahead in the polls right now. I don't need to vote because everyone else will vote for them. I don't need to worry about taking the vote. Someone else will. It's simply foolish and nonsensical. Time is of the essence in making sure that we are registered to vote for this upcoming election, and October 7th is the deadline to register. Let's pause for prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege to cast our vote in this free country. May we not take for granted this great opportunity that we have to speak our mind and heart by how we vote. Instead of making claims on social media that we can't even verify as truth, let us start investigating the records of how each candidate has worked, served, voted, and where they have put their trust, time, and treasures. We pray that all registered voters would express their hearts as they make educated and informed choices as they cast their vote on Election Day. Let us also be mindful to not make hasty and nasty retaliatory comments to others on social media because we aren't voting for their candidate. Let us be silent in criticism and instead use our voice to vote. Lord, most of us have not changed our minds by the nasty comments others have made, and we haven't likely changed the minds of others because of our comments. So help us to be wise in our ways. We pray for your direction, not that of social media. Lord, you are our guide, and we trust you will direct us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hello, Roland Warren here with your Pro-Abundant Life Minute. Have you ever heard the pro-choice expression, no womb, no say? It's used by activists to prevent men from expressing their opinions about abortion. But recently, the pro-choice movement has been violating its own rules by mobilizing men to be more vocal in their support for abortion. Through this effort, the pro-choice movement has exposed an ugly truth about its ideology. Several activists have said that men should be in favor of abortion because it makes them more free. Of course, this is a freedom without responsibility. But sadly, it's a freedom that leaves women in bondage to the physical, emotional, and spiritual consequences of abortion, as well as millions of aborted babies. And that's not the kind of freedom that any man should have. For more pro-abundant life insights, visit care-net.org.
bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That was Casting Crowns on Moody Radio Cleveland. This is Mornings with Brian. What are you doing December 5th, Brian?
Well, I'm going to probably hang out at a Christmas concert.
Yes, because we're
All
hosting
right.
Moody Radio Presents Christmas with Rebecca St. James. It's sponsored by Compassion International and Christian Healthcare Ministries. December 5th at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights. We want to see you there. I'm not giving away tickets right now, so you're going to have to text in to get your tickets. Text CONCERT to 440-546-2255.
I was nervous because that sounded like a pop quiz. And the odds were I was getting it wrong.
No, you got it right.
I know. I'm so proud of myself.
You will be there.
Thank you. I don't have a choice.
No.
I can't wait. It'll be great. All right. And with us right now, our good friend David Mullane. He is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Medicare at Yost Insurance Agency, ready to answer your Medicare questions. We know you have them. 440-546-2255. Welcome back, David.
Good morning, Brian. Good to be with you as always. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, man. It's like Super Bowl season for you, essentially, right? Because it's like open enrollment. Watch out. Here it comes.
It really is. That's the exact analogy that I would use. And on the way into the break, you again said how confusing Medicare is. And I want to tell you, I've trained over 300 agents this year. So that offer is always there for you, Brian. If you want to become an expert in the area of Medicare insurance plans, you just let me know. I would gladly come train you.
Well, thank you very much, first of all. Second of all, I mentioned that Part G no longer exists, and I'm like 70% sure that's true.
I'm like 99% sure that's false.
Oh, man. One of the letters is no longer a thing, right? Part something is gone?
Do you have a reverse bell? Like, you know how you usually hit that bell?
That's his buzzer.
Question, right?
It's a buzzer. Yeah.
Yeah, so Plan F has expired. If you already had it prior to, I believe it was 2022.
I was so close, bro.
You could still keep it. Yeah, but it got grandfathered out.
FG, they sound the same.
There's one letter off. It's very close. So
now,
F
Brian,
is...
as two former educators, if we could just get rid of F's in school, that would be a good thing you and I could work on together.
There you go. Watch out. Nothing gets past you, David Mullane. All right. It's time for your questions, 440-546-2255. What are your questions about Medicare? As we get to those, though, we got to remind folks how the Inflation Reduction Act will impact prescription drug coverage. This is important. It's going to impact a lot of people, right?
Yeah, this is going to be a very important annual enrollment period. Again, that time of year, October 15th through December 7th. We love it because throughout the year, we definitely meet with people, but those are typically people aging into Medicare, turning 65 or leaving their employer coverage. For this time of year, we get to meet with everybody who's already on Medicare, and we get to go over their current plan as it compares to other plans and the changes that are taking place heading into January. Well, this year in particular, the Inflation Reduction Act is going to bring about a lot of changes in terms of prescription coverage. For some people, it's going to be great news. It's going to be an incredible blessing. We have some clients that have spent thousands of dollars a year on prescriptions historically. And in January, that out-of-pocket limit for them on their medications will be $2,000. So that is incredible for people with high-cost medications who've been spending thousands every single year. However, they might not be on the right plan for themselves leading into January. And the same is true for those that maybe don't take a lot of expensive medications. They could see their costs maybe go up on their plan. So we just want to make sure that we take time to do that review this fall and look at every available plan. It's just like shopping. So I don't want anybody to be afraid to shop for a plan that would be most suitable to their needs heading into January.
All right, 440-546-2255. What's the first one, Lauren?
If my husband works full-time after age 65, would he still apply for Medicare if he's not retiring?
Yeah, we get this question frequently, especially on the air here, and it's a very confusing thing for everybody because of all the talk of penalties, right? But if you're going to continue to work past 65, or your spouse is going to continue to work, and you're going to have an employer group plan, as long as that plan, which most do, meets the federal guidelines for what we call credible coverage, you're going to be able to just stay on that plan if you choose. Now, some people pick up Medicare Part A because for most Americans, Part A is premium free. And so that just kind of rides in the background as secondary insurance for hospital coverage, like room and board in the hospital. But I still think it's important to maybe sit down with a local agent because what if your costs and coverage are better on Medicare than your employer plan? And some employers have different programs for people that go into retirement insurance early. So you want to evaluate all your options, but the short answer is yes, you can continue on that plan into retirement if you choose.
And so you can be on both. That's okay to be on two plans at once if you're on Medicare and your employer's insurance?
Yeah, it is. And there's some weird nuance for like employers that have less than 20 employees. There's some guidelines there that might force a decision, but you can carry both. Most only choose to keep that employer plan in Part A because they don't want to carry an employer plan, pay a premium out of their paycheck, and also pay a Part B premium on top of that, if that makes sense.
Oh, it sure does. And David Mullane is with us right now. Again, he is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Medicare at Yost Insurance Agency. We have just a few minutes left to answer your Medicare questions. We know you got them. It's that time of year where folks are thinking about this.
Call or text right now with those questions. 440-546-2255. Again, 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
The current situation in Cuba is desperate.
No medicine, no food. They don't have power. The internet is not working.
That's TWR's Anabel Torrealba.
When it's that hard, you lose hope because it's not just one day, it's every day.
And many are fleeing Cuba.
Even pastors are leaving, and the churches are in need of people to bring the word of God.
That's why Trans World Radio, TWR, is so vital for Cuba right now.
These people, they gather together around a radio, sometimes a whole community, and can get the message of hope.
Cuba needs Jesus. Cuba needs you. Partner today with TWR. Go to CubaNeedsJesus.org. CubaNeedsJesus.org.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
Does it seem like your son or daughter will just not stop talking? My little brother is proof that not all hope is lost.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Radio Cleveland. We are joined by David Mullane of Yost Insurance. We're taking your Medicare questions. Dave, we've got a couple questions for you lined up. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do them.
Is it a good idea to sign up for Medicare when I'm still working? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, that's really going to come down to the quality of the current plan that you have. If you don't have insurance through your employer, that's probably something that you're going to want to look at doing. But if you do, or if your spouse does, you're going to want to sit down with a local agent and evaluate your insurance from your employer versus what's available to you when you sign up for Medicare.
Are there any cons to doing that?
Well, there could be. Like if you signed up for Medicare and your costs for your plan plus your premium on Medicare were higher than what you had available to you through your employer or through your spouse's employer, that would probably be the wrong decision. However, the opposite could be true too, right? You could have more coverage for a lower cost potentially if you make that transition into Medicare at age 65. So whenever somebody's still going to work past 65 or still have coverage past 65, we really like to just sit down and do that comparative analysis and give them all the information and let them make that decision with all that information in front of them.
Is it usually more cost effective for clients to switch to Medicare at that point?
It really just depends. So one thing that I think sometimes people don't realize is there's some people who think that I'm going to take COBRA rather than Medicare. Well, you can't do that. If you take COBRA past age 65, that doesn't count towards the government's definition and guidelines of credible coverage. And so then that would give you a situation where you would be liable for late enrollment penalties.
Oh.
Plus, COBRA is ridiculously expensive. So just a couple of things for people to keep in mind. When you have a decision to make with Medicare, go sit with a local agent. You don't pay us anything, and your plans don't cost more to meet with us. We are compensated under the guidelines and the rules by the insurance carriers to help you go through your options and help you answer questions, find out things that are available for you, and it doesn't cost you anything. So even if you're going to continue to work past age 65, still feel free to go meet with a local agent, develop that relationship, and they'll show you all the possible plans compared to your plan at the employer, and you can make a really informed decision, all for no cost.
Okay. Do you have to sign up for Medicare at 65, or can you wait until you want to retire?
Right, and that's kind of the same piece that we've been talking about. As long as you're going to have qualifying coverage that meets that federal guideline of credible coverage, you do not have to sign up at age 65, but it might be to your advantage. So we run into this all the time. That's probably the biggest fear, like we said earlier, and it's because of those penalties that everybody hears about. If you go talk to an agent, they're going to make sure that you don't run into a situation where you're going to have those penalties.
Boy, yeah, because this question was asked so many times already today. It's clearly a big concern for folks. So to me, it's like, why not meet with someone just to evaluate as opposed to just taking a guess,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, Brian, the reason it's unfortunately such a concern is so many of our older Americans are working past age 65 now. And we see this trend increasing year over year that people are calling us asking, is it okay, right? Is it okay for me to not take Medicare because I'm going to work until I'm 68 or 70? And while we're happy to answer those calls, that's actually an interesting trend, too, in the background, that our folks that are at retirement age are continuing to work, and we see those calls increasing every day.
So based on those trends, it sounds like Lauren and Daria are going to work into their 80s.
Yes.
Already anticipating it.
You never know.
Well, you got to have a fallback plan. If I have to work that long, I'm going to go maybe drive those boats at Universal Studios in Florida or something like that.
That's a wonderful plan.
I love that idea. Now, my dad has kept working part-time at a car dealership. It's him and a bunch of retired guys that transport cars and people around.
Yeah, my grandpa worked at a golf course until his 80s.
That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm. So they just zoom around.
I want to drive a golf cart now.
You should get a Moody Radio golf cart.
Where are we going to go?
We got some
We'll just zip
land
around
out
back
here
here.
just on my lunch break.
I want a little scooter for the office, that can fit through doorways and stuff. I can just zoom around.
Not that big.
It doesn't
Brian,
matter.
I
It would
see
still
you
be
on
fun.
a Segway.
Yes, I see me on a Segway too. David, you have all the answers. I need a Segway.
Oh,
I
gosh.
need it. Write that down. Okay, with that in mind as well, let's just say somebody is going to come to you for an appointment. How do you prepare for one so it's not a total waste of time?
That's a great question. And I think, too, one other thing I want to point out leading into that is a lot of people, and this is sometimes why I don't think we get as many calls as the Social Security segments. A lot of people don't want to shop health insurance because they've never done it in most of their adult life. We typically get our insurance plan from an employer. It changes. We really don't have any control. So for 30 plus years, we're stuck with our insurance plan. When you're on Medicare, it is to your benefit to shop it almost every year. Whether you stay or not, it's imperative that you know your options because you could be leaving thousands of dollars on the table. And so the first way to be prepared for that meeting is to actually schedule it and to not be afraid to shop your current plan. Because I run into people all the time and they're like, oh, you work with Medicare insurance plans. I'm like, yeah. And they say, well, I'm happy with what I have. And I say, well, do you know all the options? So that fear of shopping or maybe that, lack of being familiar with the fact that you should shop your plan is huge. But other than that, it's just knowing what your needs are and sharing those needs with that person that you meet with. If that person isn't there asking about what you need, that's probably not an agent that you want to be meeting with. And so we want to know things like, do you plan to travel quite a bit? What medications do you currently take? Who are your preferred providers in your area or important facilities that you want to have access to? Do you have kids in other states that you're going to visit for 2 or 3 weeks at a time? And how can we make sure that you have really quality coverage both at home and in that area that you're going to go, spend time with your kids and grandkids? It really is a relationship, and that's why every time I'm on, you guys know this, I say meet with somebody local who can be there for you day in and day out. That to me is so important. It's a relationship, and we all need to be focused on taking care of our retired population in general. We should all have a heart and compassion for taking care of those individuals.
And it sounds like having that list of prescriptions is a huge part of it, right? You want to know what you're taking.
Yeah, that unfortunately can really drive your plan choice, and it really dictates how much money you spend out of pocket. Certainly there's other factors, your relative health. Like if you know you're going to have procedures and surgeries and physical therapy, there's costs that you can compare from plan to plan. But the medications really do have the biggest impact on most people that we see.
All right. Again, our friend David Mullane's with us. We have any more questions? We got one more, right?
Yeah, one more. If someone is keeping their health insurance with their job and is taking Medicare Part A, how do they know which is primary and which is secondary?
Yeah, so if your employer has more than 20 employees, generally speaking, under the guidelines, your employer coverage will always be primary. So whether you have Part A or Part A and Part B, that employer plan, if you have more than 20 employees, is going to be primary. In most cases, if your employer has less than 20 employees, Medicare would become primary, and then that employer plan would become secondary. That's a really good question.
But in summary, though, if you want Plan F, you can't have it. It's gone.
Yeah, you could get it back prior to 2022, but you can no longer get Plan F, unfortunately.
And contrary to what I said, Plan G, fully available.
Plan G is fully available. That is a Medicare supplement plan. It's one of the ones that a lot of people actually choose. It gives really comprehensive coverage, and it's very close to Plan F, actually, Brian. The only difference between Plan F and Plan G is if you have Plan G, you pay a Part B deductible. This year, that was $240. On Plan F, same exact coverage, only you didn't have to pay that Part B deductible. So very close in design, but Plan F is no longer available.
And right next to each other in the alphabet, which is kind of fun. All right, David Mullane, if you want to reach out to him, again, he is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships in Medicare at Yost Insurance. The best way to get a hold of him is just come to us. We'd love to connect you, 440-546-2255. David, it's a joy as always, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks so much, Brian. And Lauren and Daria, let's get a GoFundMe together to get that segue for Brian, okay?
I don't want that zipping around.
He does not need that.
I could be like Paul Blart Mall Cop. My kids just watched that movie. He was so cool.
You don't need one.
I don't know if he was cool.
Yes,
I don't
he
think
was so
that was
cool.
the premises
Kind of the
of the
point is
movie.
that he's not cool.
He saved the day and the mall. You don't.
In spite of
the
himself.
day and the mall.
Yes. David, I think it's a great idea, and I'm offended that they won't start that GoFundMe. So thank you.
Well, I will, Brian. I got your back. You guys have a great day.
Good man. All right. Catch you later. Bye-bye. Yeah, the other funny thing you guys didn't see is when Lauren's face when he suggested that grandparents who may want to come to visit for 2 to 3 weeks may want to consider coverage different. Look on your face was like, whoa. 3 weeks? I don't think you're visiting that long.
No, it wasn't that. It was, I was shocked that you'd have to get insurance somewhere else. I didn't really think about that.
I couldn't tell if it was like
I didn't think
3 weeks.
That is quite long. My mother already knows she's not allowed to stay that long. But I was shocked, like, I didn't think about how you have to, do I have coverage if something happens here?
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to think about that. And, I mean, to have your back on this. As my parents and my in-laws, for many years, we've lived out of the state of Minnesota. Many, many years. Like 16 years now. For all of us, about a week is as long as we can handle on both sides.
Yeah, it's very long.
Like
a week is our cap for anyone visiting.
And they know, like, 4 or 5 days is ideal. By the time 7 days rolls around, nobody wants to see each other anymore. They want a break. So it's not bad, Lauren. I was convinced you were like 3 weeks. No.
Well, no, that's too long anyway. But that wasn't my shock, no.
So Gigi and Pops, don't be offended.
No, when she used to go visit my sister every 6 weeks. My sister lives in a different state than her as well. And when we had children and were moving away, I said, we're not doing every 6 weeks, Gigi. And she understood. I said 6 weeks is just a little too close.
What have you set a time where it's you're allowed to renew the visit?
No, but I think she like flip-flops between me and my sister. So it's,
You're on a 12-week rotation.
Yeah, probably something closer to that.
It's getting close. Time for Gigi to come visit.
Well, we just saw them, so.
That should not have any bearing on her visiting you.
You'll see him at
It
Christmas.
doesn't?
It's about 12-ish weeks away.
Wow. Okay. 8:02, it's time for Ron's News and today's Moron Moment. When we come back, our friend Todd Nettleton from Voice of the Martyrs has an update on the persecuted church.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Earth is getting a temporary new companion. It's 8:03. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Researchers are calling it a mini moon, but it will be hanging around for just about 2 months before it heads back on its journey into the solar system. It's really an asteroid, roughly the size of a city bus. No criminal charges will be filed against a Canton police officer who fatally shot a man last December. Officer Garrett Marino was stopped by people reporting that 24-year-old Zachary Fornash had shown a gun during an argument. During a chase captured on video, Fornash refused the officer's commands and tried to flee the scene, leading the officer to shoot. Fornash was later found to have been holding a pellet gun. And Governor Mike DeWine is announcing an incentive program for newly graduated behavioral health professionals in Ohio. Counselors and psychiatric care nurses who commit to working at one of the state's community behavioral health centers, committing for a year, can get grants worth up to $20,000 toward their educational expenses. Applicants must be employed or have an employment offer from an approved center by January 6th in order to qualify. Sports and weather coming right up.
Ever questioned your purpose in life? What was I made for? Why am I here? The Bible has the answers. Join Today in the Word for this month's Bible study on the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes. The study, written by Moody professor Russell Meek, will encourage you as you learn the answers to these deep questions. To join our study, download the free Today in the Word app or go to todayintheword.com That's todayintheword.com.
In sports, the Browns fell to the Raiders 20-16. The Steelers are no longer undefeated as they lost to the Colts 27-24. The regular season finale between the Guardians and Astros got canceled due to rain, so the team will start its postseason run on Saturday from right here at home. And the Pirates lost to the Yankees 6-4 in their regular season finale. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy skies, a chance of showers this afternoon, and high temperatures in the mid-70s. At last check, cloudy and 66 in Cleveland. It's cloudy in Akron and Canton, 63 degrees. Cloudy skies in Mansfield as well, where it's 64 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Podcasts have fundamentally changed the way people consume audio. And for that reason, we celebrate on September 30th. Here's to International Podcast Day. With roots going back to the 1980s, what we recognize as podcasts today actually took off in the early 2000s. Like a broadcast, but they are POD, playable on demand. And if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, may I suggest the series by our own Brian Dolan, The Grandfather Effect. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:06 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
It's 8:10 on Mornings with Brian. That was Mercy Me, and we are so excited because kicking off on Wednesday, it's our Fall Share campaign. Listen, we need your help. We have been blessed to be in this community for, it'll be 66 years this November, and we're only here because of people just like you. So we need your support. We've got some cool stuff for you if you partner with us. You can text SHARE to 440-546-2255, or you could just go ahead and make your donation now. Call directly 800-600-9624. That kicks off Wednesday, and we'll wrap up on Saturday morning. Got a lot of local stars that are going to be joining us to help us guide you through this. So we're really excited.
And you did the math for me. 66 years.
I can. Last year was our 65th celebration. I can add one.
I can hardly remember what I did last week, so expecting me to remember last. So you did it. Thanks, Daria. 66 years, guys. I'll bring that up a lot now because I know. 66 years.
You can't
this
add
November.
one?
No.
Okay.
No, it's hard. Anyway, thanks, Daria. You're the best.
Yeah.
With us live on the air is a friend who gives us an update on the persecuted church on a regular basis. Todd Nettleton is Chief of Media Relations and Message Integration for Voice of the Martyrs, and he is also host of the Voice of the Martyrs radio program. Welcome back, Todd.
Thanks so much. Good morning.
Now, you've been giving us regular updates on Susanna Coe. You've got to, for those who've missed it, can you give us the backstory and then the latest update?
Yeah, a little backstory. So 2017, Susanna Coe's husband, Pastor Raymond Coe, was abducted off the streets of Malaysia, essentially disappeared. The abduction was captured on security video. It took 40 seconds. It involved 13 men and 5 different vehicles, but he hasn't been seen. His car has never been located. In 2020, Susanna sued the Malaysian government to try to get information about what happened to her husband. That lawsuit is still going on slowly but surely through the legal process. Last month, the judge ordered the government to turn over a confidential report that had been done about the abduction. At the time, the judge said to the government, you have 4 days to turn over the report. The government said, oh, no, it's going to take us longer than that. They finally turned over a report 2 weeks ago, but it had been so watermarked that it was essentially unreadable. And it's interesting. The text they used for the watermark was the name and ID number of one of Susanna's attorneys. So not only was it watermarked so you can't read it, it's also kind of an implicit threat like, hey, we know who's representing you. We know her ID number. We can make her suffer for this. Now, since then, the government has said, oh, sorry, that was a security thing, and we're sorry. We are going to turn over the report without the watermark. But again, we'll see if that actually happens. We'll see how long it takes. Susanna's whole point in this lawsuit is, I want to know what happened to my husband. I want to know if he's still alive, if he's dead, who was responsible. I want to know what happened to him. And it seems like at every juncture of the case, the government is obfuscating, they're dragging their feet, they're doing everything they can not to give up any information.
Now, the judge who ordered this, you would think that Susanna has some recourse with this particular judge, right? Where I don't think he meant that an unreadable report could be released.
Right. You would hope not. Her attorney has asked for sanctions against the government attorneys. So far, I haven't seen a ruling on that if he is going to sanction them. But yeah, I would think that too. Like, listen, I gave you 4 days. It's now been a month and a half, and you still haven't followed my order. At some point, I hope the judge will say, listen, do what I tell you to do, or there's going to be consequences.
Now, it would seem to me that they have a lot to hide here if they would go to this length, where they'd make it unreadable and release it.
They have a lot to hide, and the report said, the report of the Human Rights Commission in Malaysia blamed the special branch of the police for this abduction and for a couple of other what they call forced disappearances. So it is believed that the highest levels of the police were involved in this. So yes, they absolutely have a lot to hide. And the more we see how they're responding to this, it's like very clear they have a lot to hide.
Well, hopefully we can get some recourse for Susanna here. For folks who want to support her in her effort, are you all just keeping folks updated on the website or what?
We are keeping folks updated on the website. We also have a great VOM Radio interview with Susanna that people can find in the podcast stream. She is so faithful throughout this time. She has just been so faithful. And, she talks about in the interview, she talks about forgiving the police and how at first she just was so angry with them, which I think we can all understand. But she said the Lord really convicted her to respond with love, even in a courtroom, even in a very frustrating circumstance. How can I respond with grace to these policemen? So I would encourage people, you can find that in our VOM Radio podcast stream.
All right, next up, let's go to Eritrea. Remind folks where that is, and then what's your update for us?
It is on the northeast corner of the continent of Africa. It is a country that has been heavily persecuted. In fact, in 2002, the government called in all the evangelical pastors and basically said, your church is closed. It's closed as of today. One of those pastors, a man named Tekliab Mengistab, was arrested in November of 2004. I went a couple of weeks ago and interviewed his daughter. We're going to have her on VOM Radio in the month of November, right around the 20th anniversary of his arrest. And it was an amazing conversation because she talked about how frustrating and how much grief she has. She was 6 years old when her dad was arrested. She hasn't seen him since she was 6. She's now 26. But she also talked about the faithfulness of God. And one of the questions I asked her, I said, the Bible talks about loving our enemies. I said, in your situation, it's pretty easy to think of the government of Eritrea, who's had your dad in prison almost 20 years. It's easy to think of them as our enemies. How do you live out that idea of loving them? And she said something very interesting. She said, when I was in Eritrea, we didn't really think of the government as our enemy. We just thought that persecution is what happens when you follow Jesus. We weren't really thinking about who the persecutor is or thinking of them as our enemy. She said, when I came to America, people started asking me about my enemies and people started thinking of it that way. And I thought, what an interesting insight into how our brothers and sisters who face persecution all the time, they just see it as a part of walking with Christ. They don't really think about it as something strange or something unusual. It's actually a very biblical understanding because, the Bible says, don't think it's strange when you suffer fiery trials of many kinds. Don't think that's strange. Our brothers and sisters in Eritrea don't. And I think this interview with Hannah is just going to be amazing in November, right around the 20th anniversary of her dad's arrest.
You're right, Todd. That's super powerful. To have that perspective from the persecuted church. Thanks for that. Now you're going to take us to another country people probably have never heard of, Bhutan. What is it? Where's Bhutan?
Bhutan is just north of India, sort of on the eastern side of India, North India. A very small country, less than 1 million citizens. It is a heavily Buddhist country. In fact, 88% of the people are Buddhist. The king, it is a monarchy, and the king considers it a part of his job to protect Buddhism in the country. So if you come along, it's actually illegal for you to come along as a gospel worker, as a missionary, as a pastor, and try to tell other people, hey, I think you should consider following Jesus. That's actually against the law. But the church is growing, and it's interesting. One of the ways it's growing is through God's show of supernatural power. When a Christian meets someone who is sick, or they meet someone who has a huge need, and they say, hey, I'd like to pray for you. And they pray for them in the name of Jesus, and that prayer is answered. Suddenly that person is very open to talking about Jesus. Like, hey, I was sick and now I'm well. Tell me more about this Jesus. That's one of the ways that the church is growing in Bhutan. There is also a lot of hunger among young people. And this brother that I spoke with is actually working on a lot of university campuses. They are seeing the gospel planted. And he talked about one student who was already a Christian when he went to university. Again, that can be a touchy thing. And so one of the things this student did as he was moving in, he played Christian music in his dorm room. And as people would stick their head in, there were a couple of others who were like, hey, I really like that song. And he's like, oh, you must be a Christian too. That's how they connected up, started a Bible study, and are kind of planting a little mini church on that university campus.
Wow, incredible. Now we've got the 10th anniversary Voice of the Martyrs radio broadcast is now available. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this month is our 10th anniversary of weekly VOM radio broadcasts. I know you can hear them right here every Sunday morning. You can also hear them in the podcast stream. This 10th anniversary episode, we just kind of went back and got some of the most moving moments or the most powerful stories that we've had the privilege of sharing on VOM radio. And it is a very encouraging episode. We've had amazing privilege to talk to people who have lost their spouse to persecution. They've been killed for the gospel, people who have seen God work in amazing ways. And looking back, I tell you, my spirit this month has just been so much gratitude that God has allowed us to tell these stories. So I would encourage people, go find that in the podcast stream, listen to that 10th anniversary episode. If you've never listened to VOM radio before, this is a great introduction. These are the kind of stories we tell every week.
And for more information about Voice of the Martyrs, go to persecution.com. Again, persecution.com. Todd Nettleton, again, he's Chief of Media Relations and Message Integration for Voice of the Martyrs. And he hosts that Voice of the Martyrs radio program, so go check it out wherever you get your podcasts, or again, listen here on Sundays. Todd, as always, we're grateful for you, brother.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too. 8:21, time for a break. When we come back, I'm excited to share with you guys, it's homecoming season.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little homecoming story from my little family here.
Cute.
In just a minute.
How exciting if God calls you to missionary aviation. Moody Bible Institute offers the missionary aviation technology degree with a maintenance specialist emphasis. It includes engine overhaul, airframe rebuild, turbine engine maintenance and repair, avionics systems installation, and much more. Get started on your application today at moody.edu/aviation. Over 65 years of missionary aviation training. What an exciting way to serve God. moody.edu/aviation.
This is David Harms with the ministry India Partners, and I have walked through the red light districts of Mumbai, India numerous times, and trust me, it is dark. Young girls have no joy in their eyes because they feel they have no future, and they'll be stuck in the trade for the rest of their lives. But once they get into a safe house run by India Partners, well, just listen. That is God at work, which is why for the last year we've shared powerful stories of safety, rescue, and care happening through the India Partner safe houses. These girls are safe from harm, well cared for, and introduced to the transforming and healing love of Jesus. Learn more about the power of rescue and care in a safe house at indiapartners.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
It is Mornings with Brian. This is WCRF 823. Happy Monday. Hey, we loved seeing so many of you at the Renew Women's Conference. If you were there, then you know just how awesome Dr. Julie Slattery is. And you have an opportunity to see her again in a co-ed conference, the Authentic Intimacy Reclaim Conference. She is going to be joined by Jackie Hill Perry and other powerful speakers to learn how knowing Jesus really does change everything we know about how to navigate sexuality. That is October 18th through the 19th at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights. If you want some more information, text RECLAIM to 440-546-2255. And it is fall. I can't believe it's the last day of September already. So if you've got kids in high school, that means it's time for homecoming. Brian, what's going on in the Dollin House?
Well, they call it HOCO now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just sounds weird.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. It's really dumb. And, you know, I mean, it's been so long for me. I would just do this crazy thing when I wanted to ask a girl to homecoming. I'd go, do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
And she'd say yes or no, and it was over. Like, it was that quick. And now there's like, it's almost like you're getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. But it's homecoming week at our school. Dari, did you do the homecoming thing much in high school?
I went to a couple dances. There was one, they were notoriously bad. So my sophomore year, a friend of mine had an anti-homecoming party because they were known for being awful. So we watched Sharknado and we had shark-themed snacks, and that was the best homecoming I ever went to.
So was it the DJ was bad? It was the dancing was bad?
The DJ was bad. My senior year, I remember it was so bad. There was almost a riot with the students screaming, "We want music," because it was so bad. You could we don't know any of these songs. This is horrible. Like they were literally tearing up the dance floor. Like the dance floor was like some mat they had put down, and they were literally pulling it up and shredding it. They were so mad.
Oh my goodness.
Did you all have Spirit Week?
I think so.
You were not into that.
No.
You see, I'm the same way where I could just. I know you well enough to know you're not going to get all dressed up funny at school.
I had no high school
spirit.
I was there to get my education, and then I pieced out.
Lauren, you went to homecoming.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, there was like a line of boys asking you, wasn't that right?
No, that was for prom. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. Silly me. Prom and homecoming mix up. You do this? Did you do Spirit Week in your Christian high school?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what were some of the things you did for that?
I mean, there's like Spirit Day, so you dress up like in the school colors.
Sure. You went all in on that.
Oh, yeah. I think there were a couple years it was like themed by like time periods. So it was like the 20s or like
you were a
the
flapper?
50s. No. I could find some pictures for you.
But you did the theme week.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would not
Hawaiian
have done that.
Day. Oh, yeah.
Good for you. Look at you. You were Miss High School.
I was.
And so you don't come off that way now. Like if you would have asked me that, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But I know it about you. Ron, do you guys have Spirit Week in the olden days?
Yeah.
Do you remember some of them?
I remember the school colors. So I'd wear green and white the one day. Because I was on the football team, Friday we would wear our jerseys and, you'd wear them around the class. Other teams had, their sports during the week typically. So they might wear their jerseys on a Tuesday or a Thursday or something. We would have the homecoming parade on Thursday, followed by a bonfire.
Oh, the big bonfire. Yes, the big bonfire.
And I think it was the junior class or maybe sophomore class responsible to build the bonfire.
It was big, I bet.
Yeah. And floats, of course, for the parade.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is homecoming week for James A. Garfield High School, where my kids go. And Sophia last night, my junior, was telling me about some of the themes. One of them I'd never heard of before. It took me a minute. Rhyme without a reason. Twin Day.
Oh, yeah, we did Twin Day.
Just call it Twin Day then.
No, but it has to rhyme. So
the twins have to rhyme?
See, this is why it took me a minute. Rhyme without a reason, Twin Day. So, like, you'd have fairy and dairy.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like someone dressed up like a cow.
That's
someone
funny.
dressed like and then they're like aviator and gladiator.
That's
or monkey and flunky. Shark and Clark, like Clark Kent and a shark.
Yes. That's too much work.
Shark and Clark.
Post Malone and Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
Curtin and Tim Burton. Huh? These are pretty good.
So someone's just wearing a curtain and someone else is dressed up as Edward Scissorhands or something.
I guess, yeah. She was trying to come up with
Someone
ask us for ideas on that.
texted in about Powder Puff football as well.
Yes. Did you do that at Christian school?
Oh, yes, we did.
You played?
No, I was the water boy.
What?
Yes. And I took it very seriously.
Wow. Why? I thought you would have played.
Absolutely not.
Too tough?
I don't
Softball
do
player?
sports.
You played softball,
That's not
you
the same.
liar.
I'm not running around.
I was a cheerleader for our Powder Puff
that's
game.
what our listener said. He said, if I remember correctly, Ron was a Powder Puff cheerleader.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Someone remembers
Somebody's got a
it.
good memory.
Were you like wearing the outfit and having the pom-poms and everything?
Yeah, we had
pom-poms.
green skirts and, we'd wear our tennis shoes
Do you have
and,
pictures of
and
this?
socks. I might somewhere.
I need these in my life.
We all need this, Ron.
Yeah, and we used balloons for enhancements and
Enhancements.
yeah. And we had some of the regular cheers. Sometimes we'd adapt it because the cheers that girls do just sounded a little awkward from the boys.
Oh, sure.
You do like the defense cheer, maybe? Defense. Let's go, let's go.
we could have.
LETSGO. Let's
Yeah, that would be one.
go.
And there's
Very good, Brian.
It always bothered me. There's ROWDIE. That's the way we spell rowdy.
Of course.
Let's get rowdy.
Well, it's kind of complicated.
Yeah, but you spell rowdy
Spelling
with a
rowdy's
Y.
complicated.
ROWDY is rowdy.
What?
Not IE.
They spelled it wrong?
They spelled it wrong so that it would fit?
Yeah.
Wow,
Because
that's
then
silly.
we do the cheer. Let's get a little bit rowdy. ROWDY.
See,
This is too
way
much.
to go, guys. The football team throwing it down.
Yeah.
Medina what again?
Bees.
The Medina Bees.
Oh, well, I don't
Sting
like
'em.
bees, so yeah. That makes sense.
Somebody's asking, what's powder puff football?
Girls football, basically.
Flag football.
Yeah, the girls play football from the high school, and the boys are the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
It's kind of a switch around. What are you laughing about?
I found some pictures. That's why.
Oh, good.
Of Ron?
No, of me.
I was going to say, I don't even know where to find them.
Internet
I
sleuthing.
went back to Ron's Facebook now. Mine.
Well,
That's funny.
One of the days this week that Sophia was particularly excited about, they're doing, I think it's on Thursday, is Dress Like Your Dad Day.
Oh, my.
So what's she going to wear? The polo with 2 buttons on it?
The shirt he wore to the same party 2 years in a row.
Anything else? Keep going.
No, that's enough.
The jacket with the hoodie on it.
I'm actually going to give her a Mornings with Brian shirt, I think.
Wow, you want her to be found out?
And she wanted that. And then
That's
we're going to
cute.
try to find where to get a fake beard for her, and she needs some glasses. She's excited about it. Dress Like Your Dad Day.
That'll be fun. I will need pictures of that.
Is she going to wear your new Skechers, your new slip-on Skechers?
No, I need those. I need shoes.
She's wearing your old black ones.
Get her a pair of headphones, too.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
a little microphone.
If you were going to dress like your dad, Lauren, what would you do?
He's been wearing very bright shirts, like patterned shirts, with jeans and some nice shoes. Not like fancy shoes, but like cool shoes. I don't know how to explain them.
And he has comfy jeans, right? And like formal jeans?
He does have comfy jeans, at-home jeans, and his work jeans. Yeah.
Okay. So it's jeans for sure.
Yeah, so a nice, like, patterned, fun shirt. Sometimes it's like flowers. I think he had like watermelons on one once.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tim.
Mm-hmm. And he has glasses. I do that.
Daria, what would you dress like if you dress like your dad?
He likes to wear muted button-up shirts, brown slacks, and he has brown loafers.
That did not take you long to come up with that.
No.
He said, I admired that. He's got a thing.
He's
It's
got his
simple,
uniform.
And that's all he needs.
Yes. We
Atta
love
guy.
a uniform.
Ron, if you were to dress like your father, what would that be?
Would it be work or
That's a good
post-work?
question.
Because he worked construction.
Yeah.
Ladies, is it Ron's dad on Sunday or Ron's dad at work if he's going to
Work.
dress like his dad? Okay, work dad.
Okay, he would have on the Cintas uniform, blue slacks.
Like
and
coveralls.
Well, these would be like office wear.
Oh, I see.
And a white shirt with his name on it, Roger, on the side.
Cute.
And probably I'd put on the hard hat.
Very good.
You don't always wear a hard hat on a earthwork site because there's not a lot of fear of overhead things falling on you, but sometimes you do.
Well, there you have it. I'm going to see if I can get a picture with Sophia of Dress
Please
Like
do.
Your Dad Day.
Please.
We'll see if we can tell you two apart.
It's 8:33. We're up against a quick break. When we come back, how overly polite communication can lead to misunderstanding.
It's so easy to grumble and to complain, so easy to feel sorry for ourselves. We're incredibly good at doing that, I find.
Here's Jonathan Griffiths with today's Moment of Truth.
It's part of a worthy life, part of a life that pleases the Lord, that we should learn gratitude. We're slow to learn it, but friends, it is a mark of grace, a mark of spiritual life, a mark of maturity. And where we see it, I sometimes see it, I think, especially in older saints who've learned this over time, because we learn it slowly, but we learn it over time. It's a wonderful thing to behold. It's such a mark of gospel transformation, to be filled with gratitude, even when things are hard and there is suffering in the mix, to be grateful, not because everything's perfect. It's not perfect. This isn't about pretending. This isn't about acting. It's not about being naive. It is about remembering the key fundamental reality that characterizes the life of every believer. We were in the dominion of darkness because of our sin. We were there with the rest of humanity, but the Son of God came and he undertook a rescue. He died in our place and he transferred us to his kingdom. And because of his saving work, as we trust in him, we are qualified to share in the inheritance of the holy people of God, the saints in light. What does it look like to walk worthily, to live a life that is fully pleasing to the Lord who has saved us? Well, it looks like fruitfulness in every good work. It looks like an increasing knowledge of God. It looks like a daily strengthening that comes from him alone. It looks like a thankfulness, a gratitude, whatever the season or situation, because we've been rescued and we have been redeemed.
This has been today's Moment of Truth. To learn more, visit encounterthetruth.org.
Hello, Roland Warren here with your Pro-Abundant Life Minute. Have you ever heard the pro-choice expression, no womb, no say? It's used by activists to prevent men from expressing their opinions about abortion. But recently, the pro-choice movement has been violating its own rules by mobilizing men to be more vocal in their support for abortion. Through this effort, the pro-choice movement has exposed an ugly truth about its ideology. Several activists have said that men should be in favor of abortion because it makes them more free. Of course, this is a freedom without responsibility. But sadly, it's a freedom that leaves women in bondage to the physical, emotional, and spiritual consequences of abortion, as well as millions of aborted babies. And that's not the kind of freedom that any man should have. For more pro-abundant life insights, visit care-net.org.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That is Travis Green on WCRF. It's Mornings with Brian, 8:40. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, we do have, I know it's a little bit early, but we do already have plans for the holiday season. We are so excited to present Christmas with Rebecca St. James, sponsored by Compassion International and Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's December 5th at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights, and we do have our good friend, Pastor Scott Lessing. He's going to be giving a brief message beforehand. You're not going to want to miss. What?
Isn't he going to like put on an elf costume
She
or
wasn't
something?
here for that part when you really were, blowing it up.
I think I was, but I don't like to overpromise things.
He's not going to be in an elf suit, Brian.
Anyway, Pastor Scott Lessing is going to be there. We hope you're going to be there as well. Text concert to 440-546-2255.
An elf hat, maybe?
Maybe he'll be wearing a Santa
Probably
hat.
not.
You'll have to ask him.
Doing Irish dancing?
Could be.
Oh, yeah, that was another one.
Lord of the Dance, Scott Lessing. You got a little Christmas music in there, Ron?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
do. I have to find it.
Yeah, because I think I wore an ugly Christmas sweater to the last Christmas concert we did. And it was ugly.
To the concert?
Yeah.
Should we do that this year? Should we wear our ugly Christmas sweaters? I don't have one.
All of your sweaters are gorgeous.
I don't have Christmas sweaters.
You should get one. They're fun.
I should. I have my NSYNC shirt. I could wear that. My NSYNC Christmas.
Oh, that would
We
totally
can get
count.
Harry Connick Jr. shirts.
Oh, I would wear that.
I'm looking it up on eBay right now.
You should
Wow.
wear your NSYNC Christmas thing. That'd be great. Daria, are you going to get festive for the concert?
I'm not going to be at the concert.
Yeah, Brian, why do you keep asking her, man?
Because I don't remember much of anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the Bahamas.
Oh.
Well, la-dee-da.
Jimmy's taking me on a cruise for my birthday, so I won't be there.
Unbelievable.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy, making the rest of us look bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking her on a cruise for her birthday. Dial it back, Jimmy.
Literally, dial it back.
I mean, carrying her to the car every morning and taking her on cruises. Come on, Jimmy.
Put her shoes on.
Yeah.
I do put my own shoes on. I can do some things.
Oh, well.
Well, when you feel like it, you do. Otherwise, it's, oh, Jimmy.
But if you asked, he would.
Shoes.
Right.
I did something. If you see me hobbling around the studio today,
Oh, no.
I hurt my ankle over the weekend.
Oh, no.
So I'm going later today to get crutches because it actually is that bad.
Oh, no, Daria.
But it was really hard for me. I was sitting on my couch, and Jimmy's a pretty decent cook. He just doesn't cook very often because I usually do it. And so, like, I'm explaining to him from the couch the plans for dinner, and I felt so bad. Like, can you bring me water? Can you do this?
He loved it, I bet.
But maybe I was feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
The guy already carries you to the car every morning. I mean, come on.
Right.
I wish you could carry you on stage at the Christmas
one day
concert.
I actually did need him to carry me to the car. He did not carry me to the car this morning.
Come on, Jimmy. Step it up.
Wow. That's
Jimmy.
funny.
Naughty Jimmy. But yeah, so, Christmas time is here. It's my favorite Christmas song. One of my favorite Christmas songs. Rebecca St. James will be in town. It'll be great. She'll be with her little accent.
Crikey, it's Christmas. Let's put shrimp on the barbie. It's Christmas. I'm Rebecca St. James.
And why does she have an accent?
She's from Australia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Her brothers are for King and Country.
The band, not like they're in favor
They're
of
kings.
their country and,
Yeah.
and King Charles.
Well, maybe they are. I don't know. Have to ask.
Well, we will. It'll be great fun, December 5th. Again, can't wait to see you there. And for more information, go to our website, moodyradio.org/Cleveland. Are you going to sing Christmas songs, Lauren?
No.
Do you know this one?
Yes.
Children call it their favorite
I'm not doing
time
that.
of year. Kenny G.
Oh, Kenny.
He's your guy.
Kenneth G.
There's bad theology in that song, though.
What song is this?
We three kings of Orient are. There probably weren't three. They weren't from the Orient.
I actually
And they
saw.
weren't kings.
I actually saw a pastor break down this song. I can't remember because it's been a year since I watched the video, but he's breaking down like actually the song is more theologically correct and deep than you realize.
Well, I don't like that sermon because it's more fun to make fun of the chorus. Come on, Lauren.
Well,
Jingle
Mary, did
all
you
the
know? Yeah,
way.
Mary did know. We do know that she knew.
Thank
An
you.
angel told her.
Yeah. It's literally right there.
It's like If I was married, I'd be like, guys, stop. I knew.
Yeah.
I was told. Did you read your Bible? No.
Yeah, that was written by my friend Mark Lowry.
Don't even get me started on that little drummer boy.
Yeah, no newborn mom wants a little drummer boy pum-pum-pum-pumming.
Ron's going to punch you on that one, though. We fight about it every
Why,
year.
he likes it?
Because Mary nodded. She obviously did want that little drummer boy to come give his gift.
Contrary to what we hear in Away in a Manger, I'm sure Jesus cried and kept Mary up.
He was a real human baby that cries and doesn't like loud, scary noises like drums. It's like, I'm sure you have great gifts, kid. Love the drum. Get out of here.
Ugh.
You're going to scare the animals in here, too. If there were any. We don't know for sure. You'll have to fight with Ron about that one. Because it's his favorite Christmas song.
Oh, I'm glad for him.
We'll get to all that closer to Christmas, but for now, get your tickets, moodyradio.org/Christmas. Moody Radio presents Christmas with Rebecca St. James, sponsored by Compassion International Christian Healthcare Ministries. Also, Share starts on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We need your financial support. Your financial support brings you things like those concerts, like our women's conference, our men's conference.
Medicare questions.
Social Security questions, financial questions, Bible questions, expert interviews, conversations, your favorite preaching and teaching program, all that stuff because of people like you. And we could get all like Christianese with you and be like, why don't you come alongside and partner with us and we can unpack things with you? No. We need you to give us money to keep the radio going.
Right.
I know that sounds blunt, but it's the when we say come alongside and share your resources, we're asking you to donate money. That's what that means, right? And we all know that.
Right.
Yes.
We just tippy-tap dance around it. So for more information, you can just go to our website, moodyradio.org/Cleveland, moodyradio.org/Cleveland, or you can call 800-600-9624. All right, so Psychology Today published an article that I think Lauren is using as a passive-aggressive way to correct me in my life. How overly polite communication leads to misunderstanding is what they say. What, were you trying to convict me here? Are you correcting, exhorting, and rebuking?
You're the one who put it in our topics sheet.
You picked it real fast.
I did pick it.
Real fast. That smirk. We're going to convict me and maybe you here coming up in just a minute.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
In desperate situations, especially in isolated areas, emergency supplies are often airdropped to those in need.
Multiple countries are sending food into the strip through alternative methods, including airdrops.
And when there is a desperate spiritual need, such as in Cuba, Transworld Radio, or TWR, can airdrop the gospel.
Radio waves can reach everywhere. Any Cuban could listen to the gospel.
Cuba is a country that lived in a vacuum for decades, and that led to a religious culture that practices everything from voodoo to ancestor worship. Cuba needs Jesus. Cuba needs you.
We need an economical, social change in our country, but more than that, we need Jesus.
Partner today with TWR. Go to CubaNeedsJesus.org. CubaNeedsJesus.org.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
passion. God, you're so good to me. 8:53, it's Mornings with Brian. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope that you're going to join us here later in the week. We have our Share campaign. It's an extra hour of the show every single day starting on Wednesday, and we also have a show on Saturday. This is one of the times a year where we ask you to donate to our ministry. We are completely supported by people just like you. If you're listening to my voice right now, we're talking to you. We need your help. It takes funds to, keep the lights on, pay the licensing fees. A lot of stuff goes into this. So we really need your help. You can text SHARE to 440-546-2255. That starts on Wednesday, and we'd really appreciate your support.
So Psychology Today published an article that probably will have zero impact on Lauren and Daria, Ron.
Okay.
I don't think they've ever been guilty of over-polite communication. You're both polite.
Yeah.
But not overly polite.
No.
You're both pretty direct.
It kind of depends.
But is being direct not polite? I don't think so.
I think in some cases being direct is more polite because then there's no miscommunication.
Right. That's exactly right. Being direct is not rude.
They don't understand, Ron.
Just because I'm saying something you don't want to hear doesn't mean I'm being rude.
Well, a while back, wasn't Lauren on the phone trying to get some records or something, and she was like overly polite about...
That's called a customer service voice.
Yes, exactly.
Syrupy sweet Lauren is a thing that happens only in certain circumstances. I've heard a recording of it. It's like, hi, it's me, Lauren. How are you?
Yeah, I was trying to receive something. You got to be nice to these people, Brian.
But I guess, according to Psychology Today, overly polite communication can lead to misunderstandings.
I could see that.
Yeah, because you're beating around the bush. You're not really saying what you want to say.
Well, but you're being so kind. Love your neighbor, Lauren. Love them with kindness. Puts heaping
Sometimes
coals.
loving means telling the truth.
And doesn't, like, we joke about, come alongside and partner with us. Isn't that, like, overly kind?
It is.
Instead of saying the truth?
I think it is in some respects.
As Dave would say, what does he say? Pony up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says here, excessive politeness can muddy the waters in communication, that your job isn't to soften the blow when delivering bad news to the extent that you leave others feeling confused about your intentions. But there's good reasons why people do this, like me.
Yeah, they don't want to hurt other people's feelings. They don't want to be seen as rude. But again, just because I'm saying something that you don't want to hear, like if you ask me to do something and I genuinely don't have time for it, you might get upset that I can't help you with this, but I'm not being rude. I'm just being honest about the amount of time I have to spare.
Yeah, people do this because they fear conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Ron has openly confessed to that before.
Oh, yeah.
They desire to please. Stop convicting me, Lauren.
I didn't say anything.
And cultural norms sometimes
That's true.
create excessive politeness. But this can lead to unresolved issues, misinterpretation, and frustration and resentment. Like, even, I'm so bad at this. I'm working on it, okay? I don't know why I'm this way. But there have been times in recent history where, like, I thought I was super clear about how I felt about something, and Sarah would be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you felt that way. Because when I would deliver my feelings to her, they would be so sugary sweet and excessively polite that they would be devoid of all their actual meaning.
Yeah, you kind of like make up for your feelings instead of just say, this is what I feel, but you make excuses for your feelings.
And you tap dance around them.
I kind of feel like maybe, I don't know, I feel a little bit hurt by that or something.
So
maybe.
Have you ever been that way, Lauren?
I don't think so.
If your mom was here, she'd probably spit out her breakfast or something when she heard.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem for me.
Where does that come from?
Not sure, honestly.
Because you have a way, and Dara, you have this too, where you're able to communicate directly without having someone feel like you hate them. Because I've met people who are direct and they're just not nice.
Yeah, there are some.
For me, it came from, I was incredibly shy in high school, and I didn't like not feeling seen or heard. So it was just a lot of practice of, no, this is how I communicate. This is how I tell people what I need and what I want.
Because when you didn't do that, you were not getting what you needed or wanted.
Correct.
And so it was learned experience for you.
Yeah.
But how do you do it in a way? because this is where I don't think this article did a good job. Because I think you take two people saying the same message. One could sound like the biggest jerk you've ever met, and the other could be like I've thanked you before, Lauren, for being direct with me and helping me see something that I couldn't see. So how do you do it?
I don't know. I think you have to actually care about the person you're talking to.
But how do you communicate? Is that just like a collective, like you've invested enough in an individual that you can make a withdrawal, so to speak, without losing credibility, or what?
No, I don't think so. I think it's in the words that you choose to say and how you say those words.
I try to cushion for lack of a better word, a blow with a compliment. Like if someone has an idea or something and it's a good idea, it's just not going to work. Like, just, hey, thank you so much. That is a great idea. Unfortunately, I just don't think we can for XYZ.
Well, see, that was nice. I'm okay with it. And I feel better already about my dumb idea.
Yeah, or like you encourage them around it. So if I was saying like, Brian, I know you feel this way about this, and I really appreciate that about you, and I know you put a lot of thought and effort into it, but I just don't think that's going to work for the show this morning because of this.
Yeah.
Right.
And see, I think we lose sight of when you focus only on you're supposed to love your neighbor. And Paul even talks about in Romans 12 about loving your enemy so much that it's like drives them crazy, essentially. It's like putting burning coals in their head.
Yeah.
That does not mean that it's good for us to so syrupy sweet, be nice to people that we're not clear. I'm working on it.
I didn't say anything about you.
We are all growing.
Yeah, I'm working
okay.
on it. It's hard.
It is.
Ron.
Yeah, it is. When you're a people pleaser, you don't want to say something that might be uncomfortable.
Yes.
But it's better to be uncomfortable up front than how much more uncomfortable it would be when you have to explain a week later that they didn't understand what you mumbled through.
Thanks, Ron.
We're working on it.
We are. All right. And we're going to have to keep working on it throughout the day because the show is over. But fear not, there's much more to come today on the rest of WCRF. Don't forget, Share starts Wednesday. For more information, go to moodyradio.org.